All right, King Killers, got a quick update for you. We have a big tournament going on Twitter right now. It's the 2022 Top Fantasy Duo to try to take over the World Tournament. Got pairings from across the fantasy world. We've got like Kavoth and Kelsey are on a team, Hoyd and Elodin, Kaladin and Ben, Tyrion and Debbie. Run some of the polls already. There were 64 teams to start. Got a handful of them already done. More to come. We're still in round one this week. So if you want to vote in the polls and pick who you think would be the best duo to try to take over the world, head over to our Twitter page. And the pinned tweet will have links. It's a thread. It's got all the previous polls that are already done, plus any that you can still vote in. And so that's the best place to check. Our Twitter link is in the show notes. But on to the show, we are covering chapter 23 of the Wave Kings in this episode. Got a good one for you. We go through Kaladin's continued attempt to save the wounded Bridgeforce members, and he tries to win over the rest of the crew. He collects plans for antiseptics, and then we talk about what got Rock in trouble with Sadeas. We also come up with a great Stormlight Archive spinoff show, tell you about the truly worst Star Wars movie, and discuss a prank gone wrong by our favorite hidden character, Doug. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the King Killer Podcast. I'm Dan. Got with me Tiny Tim. What's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm here.
It looks like you got them nipples taped up and ready to blast off.
I got some marathon grade nip guards.
Someone sent me a tweet today that their nips got blasted off when we talked about Yasna working at a 7-Eleven in episode 3. I was like, I don't even remember.
I don't remember that at all.
What the reference is. I was like, man, I have to go back and listen to those early episodes. I can't even remember that reference. Usually I can remember the funny references like that, but that one I'm drawing a blank on.
Yeah, I don't remember
but
that.
I do like multiple people, I get people telling me, like I had someone recently, they were talking about, I love the podcast. Just one thing, if I start talking about nipples blasting off, it's like I might have to stop listening if I start saying that to just random people in conversations.
That was one of the I think I was listening to like an interview with I can't remember his name, one of the guys from Workaholics. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, the show's real fun to do and all that stuff. But one day he's like crossing the street and some older gentleman yelling at him across the street, "Hey man, you have a tight butthole."
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah.
So fucking, I love shit like that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, they have that show. Workaholics had just some legendary lines and stuff like that from that show that you could see people yelling out.
I love it. Yeah. Let's have fun with it, is the way I look at it. Let's be ridiculous.
Favorite little running gag that they would have when one of the guys would like threaten to pull out his junk and show it to them, and they'd be talking shit, and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, do it." And then he'd like look down, be like shaking it and stuff, and he's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do it." Like trying to get it up, and he's like, "Nah, it looks too small."
It's a bad day. It's not a good day for
it. I'm not gonna do it. Or with the dude, he's got the real tiny one, and like they start making fun of him at the school when he's peeing at the urinal, and so then he flashes it to everybody at the football game, the high school football game.
Oh yeah,
and then like they make a bet. They had a wager going on with some kid that was doing like being a bookie at the school, and they owed him money, and he was like, "All right, here's the deal. I'll give you my car, double or nothing, if we go over under on the size of his penis hard. And the guy's like 3.5 inches, and he's like, no way, it's under 3.5 inches. And the next scene is them driving off with the car, and like him just like looking down. Is like, can we turn on the radio or something? So fucking great. Love that show.
A lot of classic lines in that for sure.
But yeah, so let's get an update on where you're at in these books.
Yeah, it seems like some real important shit has been going down on not quite a so important level. Shallan Navani's basically like opened up to Shallan and kind of like apologized, for being told to her. So that's kind of, there's progression there. The big thing, which I don't know if I mentioned in the last episode, but one of the bigger things was Kaladin lost Syl. So there was a assassination attempt on Dalinar, I guess it was, on one of the bridges, right? And Kaladin and Shallan fell. And
we talked about that in the last episode.
Okay. Shallan saved
and then
his ass.
then they made it back, and then we had.
So he's still, like what I listened to today, he's still kind of reeling from that, where he's like, man, I should have saved her and blah blah blah. Like I was looking to open up to somebody basically, but whatever, he was kind of like down in the dumps like he typically is, but he's like, I'm gonna persevere through this shit anyway. But the Parshendi, basically, Shallan opened up a dead Parshendi's eyes and they were like red. And the guy that was working with Bridge 4 out of the Parshendi, I don't remember his name, but they Bridge 4 brought him into their group when a lot of people were like saying don't do this.
Yeah,
but they did. So he came back basically, and he was just basically saying like something's going on, like how they take on the different states, whatever you call it. The different forms, and it's like everybody's in one form, and it's like they're all being controlled. So he's like worried about his people, So that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like the last thing that was said was Dalinar had told him, find Shallan, tell her what you told me. Oh yeah, and Shallan is basically telling Dalinar like there's this portal that Jasna discovered, and she's trying to tell him what she can do, and Dalinar's like, all right, so here's what we're gonna do, here's what you're gonna do, gives her orders, and she's like, okay, I'm not going to do any of those things because you're not going to give me orders. Dude, it's such a great moment where you're like, damn, she really came into her own here.
Yeah.
There's those moments where it's like she steps out of her own self and kind of like, she's like, wow, I can't believe I just did that. But yeah, I did that. You know what I'm saying? Like that was one of them.
That whole end of that book, I mean, like I flew through that because like the end of the second book, it's such a great ending. It starts rolling so fast, like from just before where you're at and through to the end of the book. It just starts. It's a freight train to the end.
Oh, so and then the part that I listened to today is Elhokar just sounding real bratty. Him and Kaladin, where he's just like, "Why are you able to do what you do? Teach me."
When he comes in all drunk.
Dude, yeah. That whole thing where Kaladin's like, dude, I don't know, man. It's luck. He's like, it's not luck. I see what you're doing, and I see that you're a hero, and I want to be a hero. Why can't I do it? And then Kaladin's like, I mean, you could just step down. He's like, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Like, basically, is like the gist of it. But
it's such a, when you like, that was one of the times where it was like, all right, well, Elhokar and I drunk, shithead kind of way is at least coming to like he wants to be better than who he is, and he's going to Kaladin with his fucking hat, his hat in his hand, and like, hey, help me, show me the way. And Kaladin is just like, yeah, go fuck yourself, man, get the fuck out of here. And it's like, oh dude,
and then Kaladin even thinks Kaladin even thinks for a minute like, should I just kill him, because I could just do it for Dalinar. And so he's like, and so he thinks about it he's like, well, that I basically sacrificed myself, but so what? He's such a strange, he's a crazy one, Kaladin. His head is all over the place. He does not really have a great control over his emotions.
Yeah, when he gets down in the doldrums, he's got a very bleak outlook. Very bleak.
Well, and it's interesting too, because he's like, well, I'll do it for the greater good, basically. but then, obviously he doesn't. But yeah, it's I'm forgetting now who Elhokar kept sounding like to me. It was like a particular character in something that's like quite popular, and I can't remember it now. But he was just sounding like a particular character I've come across before. But whatever. Yeah, it's. I mean, the chapters have been phenomenal for the last handful, for sure.
Yeah, that I mean, I can. And another thing though, on like Kaladin with Elhokar, there's like I can understand why he can't extend the olive branch to him. It's because of what he heard that he did to Moash's grandparents. Letting that go is not an easy thing to do. I mean, it's not going to be something easy to let go of when, with what Moash told him that Elhokar did. Do you remember what Moash said? The reason Moash wants to kill Elhokar is because Moash said that I can't remember what the animosity was between his parents and another Light Eyes, but they wanted to get his grandparents out of the way, like their business. It might have been like a business thing that they wanted, them out of the way for that business. So they ended up putting them in prison on trumped up charges and just left them there to die.
Wow.
Like just old people put them in a cell until they died, supposedly waiting on fucking trial or whatever.
And just, damn, that's brutal. Yeah, I guess I didn't remember that.
Kaladin would have came to Dalinar about it by this point, because like you said, Dalinar and Shallan, they're off heading towards the Parshendi, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Kaladin also would have had a conversation with Dalinar about it, and where he talked to him, and Dalinar was just like, yeah, it was, he trusted the wrong people, and it was a bad situation.
I do
because
this
is how like Kaladin finds out that because of what Elhokar did to Moash's parents, that the guy that Elhokar was helping out was Roshar, who ended up at his city, and reason Tien is dead is because that guy's there. Fucking so he finds out like this train of events is what ended up sending him down the path where he's at.
I do remember that. I remember Dalinar basically kind of apologized or giving the reasoning.
Yeah,
I remember that, and yeah, and I remember the kind of, and this is kind of going back a little bit, but it was a big thing. I don't know if I talked about it, I probably did last time, but when Dalinar basically confronts Amaram and takes Kaladin's side, it's surprising in the moment because he hadn't been up to that point, and then he does, and you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, that was what I was glad they did that because of we had talked about like how Dalinar going to like Kaladin, like, hey, maybe you remember it wrong.
Yeah, the cognitive dissonance.
That was such a stupid thing like to say. Yeah. And he should have just said, I'm going to look into it and I'm going to push it until I get to the truth. Yeah. Like, obviously, he's like, you could tell him, look, I can't just accept your word on this, but I will dig into it. I will find out the truth, and I'm going to press it until I find it out. But the way he handled it with Kaladin was just one of those situations where, like, I was like, man, he's not a great people person sometimes.
Yeah, that's where, because I've mentioned before, in certain ways, he does seem to be somewhat of a good politician, but that's an example where he's not whatsoever.
No, he's not. He did not handle Kaladin well at all there. I mean, even though he was doing the right thing, he was kept digging until he found out the truth, and then he took Kaladin's side. So it's like, in the end, it all came back around towards him accepting Kaladin's word, being a stand-up guy, but his approach to how he handled the situation and how he addressed Kaladin, similar to like how he handled the investigation of Elhokar's strap with Elhokar, just didn't handle it well. He did not appease Elhokar, or when he talked to Elhokar about leaving the Shattered Plains, like, he just doesn't handle those situations well, even if his heart's in the right place, or even if he's right in the like overall strategy, he just doesn't express it in a way that's going to convince the person he's talking to. He expresses it in a way that would convince him. Like, but you're not selling yourself. You're selling someone who's got completely different emotions and shit. So he's not real good at expressing himself a lot of times with some of the other characters.
Yeah, he's not very strategic with how he deals with other people's perceptions.
No, and you see even like you see with Adolin, where Adolin doesn't kind of recognize how Dalinar views him. Like you see Adolin has a misguided view of how Dalinar sees him, where he doesn't realize how much Dalinar respects Adolin and who he is as a person.
I imagine that's a problem for Renarin as well, because Renarin already has like super low self-esteem for his own reasons.
Yeah,
but I was going to mention
to an extent, but he shows himself as vulnerable, so I think it gives Dalinar opportunities to be like, no, that's not how I see. Like, he's had those conversations with Renarin, because Renarin has been vulnerable. Where, like, if you're a confident person like Adolin, and you're not dropping your guard and saying, like, man, you must think I'm garbage. You're not having an opportunity. If you're Dalinar, he's not reading these things, so he's not having an opportunity to like jump in and be like, no, whoa, pull that back. That's not how I view things.
A couple other things that still strike me as pretty funny is Shallan, the way she approaches things, and then suddenly Adolin walks in the room and she goes, "My word."
Yeah.
Oh, he's so handsome. It's like it just comes out of the blue.
Yeah.
Or like what the, especially with the voice.
He gets
hearing it on Audible.
It's same too with Dalinar with Navani. It's you really get it funny. In this book. Like, he gets all weak in the knees anytime Navani's around.
It's really funny, especially I think with Shallan, because the way it's voiced and just to hear it, because she's she's not always 100% rational, but she's very much in her own mind, and then to have it come in, because she's handling so many things on a high level, and then, oh, there he is. Oh, so charming. Yeah, when that stuff happens. And then also Elhokar did apologize to Kaladin, where he's like, I was jealous of you and stuff like that. Just a couple things that are kind of like jump out that, they're pretty great. I mean, the whole Kaladin, Adolin, Shallan triangle is really interesting, because she sees things in Kaladin she really likes and admires, and like talks about it, and sees him for like what he is, like how we see him. Yeah. Other people don't see him that way. You know what I mean? It's funny to have Elhokar talk about like how his men love him and all this. It's like, man, he earned that shit. Like, you're going to do what he did in Bridge 4? Like, is that how you're going to do that, Elhokar? Teach me? Okay. Let's go be a slave. Like, are you going to fucking do this shit?
And it's not necessarily like you have to be like Mr. Hero Man like Kaladin, but you have to be self-sacrificing like Kaladin. If you want to be like Kaladin, you have to be very self-sacrificing and put others above your own interests and your own safety. And he's definitely not doing that.
Well, and he's also, the way that Elhokar strikes me, he also wouldn't be doing, he would do that. Well, think about the saddle, right? He would create an event. I thought that's where it was going. It was like going to be something like, all right, I got this idea, and we're going to have like someone try to kill me, and I'm going to be the hero. Like, oh, that's who he fucking reminded me of. He reminded me of River Phoenix's brother in Gladiator. That's who it reminded me of.
River Phoenix's brother?
Yeah, Yachalkin. Whatever his character's name is, I don't know. But in Gladiator, talking to Maximus, Kaladin's Maximus, and Elhokar is River Phoenix's younger brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it reminded me of. That's what that scene reminded me of. And then that's where I thought it was going. I thought he was going to have this, I got this plan. It's some stupid fucking plan where like, and especially because Kaladin's on a cane. So I was like, is he going to duel him? He's going to duel a guy that's already hurt? Like, that won't work. So what else can he do? And I don't know. That's where I thought it was going to go. It didn't go there, but I thought it was going to be some stupid plan like that where it's like, what we're going to do is we're going to put Doug in armor, and then I'm going to off him. It'll be so great.
Yeah, your nips are going to get completely blown off when, like, all of a sudden Doug does show up. You see that I've actually been talking about a named character in the book. You're like, holy shit, there's actually, he wrote into the book, Doug the Shard plate fucking cleaner.
He ends up being a dark eyes that becomes light eyes, and gets hoisted to this higher realm. He ends up being pattern. It has patterns. He has all these different. He's a surge binder and all these other powers.
But yeah, so we are jumping into chapter 23 in this episode, Many Uses. And in this episode, Kaladin, Teft, and Rock start their plan to collect the antiseptic. I can't remember what kind it's called, but the antiseptic.
Knobweed sap?
Yeah, knobweed sap. And they start collecting that and start putting it in bottles and spend some time together. You learn a little bit about the bridge crew, Rock especially.
Yeah, Kaladin gets some direction on, where he wants to take things, and kind of a picture of what was missing, that can be really bring bridge crews and their level together. It's there's some great stuff in the chapter for sure.
Yeah, and it starts off with the letter, and it's, "You have accused me of arrogance in my quest. You have accused me of perpetuating my grudge against Race and Bavadin. Both accusations are true." Which, fucking great, fucking perfect Hoyd.
Yeah.
Accuse me of arrogance. Accuse me of perpetuating my grudge. Both true. That's exactly what you would expect from that guy.
Well, it's really funny because any other character, after those two sentences, you think he's going to argue against them. Nope.
Yeah.
He's going to completely admit, yeah, these things are true. Come at me, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, and then so it starts off the chapter with Kaladin stood up in the wagon bed, scanning the landscape outside the camp as Rock and Teft put his plan, such as it was, into action. So, and you got back home, the air had been drier, which catches me off guard when I read that, because I always think of the Shattered Plains as this like barren land. I don't think of woods and that kind of stuff. Like, even when you look at it on the map, it looks like a desert with craters in between, like creating these platforms. But in my head, I always picture like a desert, not a place where there's wood and grass and all that kind of stuff.
I always picture, Casino, the long drive, like Vegas.
Yeah,
that long drive of just complete wasteland, all cracked and dried out. That's what I always picture.
But apparently that is different, because like his home place, which I don't picture as like a desolate land, is more desolate than the Shattered Plains.
It doesn't come across that way in my mind because of, I guess part of that is when him and Tien and what's-her-face are kind of going around and looking for those little bugs or little frog-like things.
Yeah.
And turning rocks over and all that stuff. It doesn't feel that way. They have no, I'm thinking of Shallan now. Because I was thinking, yeah, that's a different place, right? Shallan's from somewhere completely different.
Yeah, she's from Yakabed, and they're in the main kingdom, the Elthkar. But yeah, so but Kaladin, they talk about in his hometown, they got the place, with the little, where they were talking about pulling out those bugs out of the flowers and then stepping on them and that kind of stuff. So they're talking about farming fields and things like that, where it just in my mind, I'm picturing a more lush area because of the farming and that kind of stuff you described. But
that whole thing of
it's more dry.
Yeah, those big buds that are filled with wheat, and they have to search out a worm or something that gets inside of them. Yeah, that doesn't sound barren, man.
No.
It sounds like vegetation kind of almost grows everywhere. But that's a good thing.
I'd be curious on their worms. Their worms must be super weird. How are they surviving?
Yeah, if it's not moist.
Yeah.
Kind of worm
I don't know. Maybe you could find worms in the desert, but it seems like that would not be the place to look for them.
It would have to be. You would think it'd be more insect than, because worms are completely dependent on moisture.
You would think, unless these are different kind of worms, or maybe if you go to the desert and you go down deep enough, you can find worms. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so for whatever reason, in my head, I always picture the Shattered Plains as being more barren. But yeah, I guess, with the woods and that kind of stuff, when you start picturing that, I guess you got to kind of picture it as being more fertile ground than I typically imagine it. But yeah,
Hmm.
and you get, but here in the moisture climate, they lingered. Many of the rock buds never quite pulled into the shells completely. Kaladin hopped down from the cart. His job was to hoist up stones and place them on the bed of the vehicle. The other bridgemen brought them to him, laying them in heaps nearby. And so Rock and Teft, while he's lifting the rocks, putting them on there, they're collecting the knobweed saps and they're bringing them to him, and he's tying them in bundles, putting them under the truck, but or the whatever, the wagon. And so like the plan is they go out, they collect everything, and then they gotta kind of sneak these things back in.
It's funny how I had to keep reminding myself that it's not a truck but a wagon. Like when you
Yeah,
just said it, because when he's putting it under there, I'm picturing the undercarriage of like a
yeah,
truck,
yeah.
and yeah, you can hide stuff under there. But yeah, it's kind of a funny. I like the visual of like them working together and the fact that it's like under the rocks, right? Like this knobweed sap sort of sticks, so they're just moving these rocks and then kind of ripping it out, and doing it. I mean, you can picture being able to do that in a way where it wouldn't be noticeable what they're actually doing. So it's a pretty
Yeah,
good plan.
and it's kind of cool, like, because they talk about like he sent Rock and Teft out to look for him, gave him a description of him, and that was enough. And they go out and they're looking for him. But then once Syl got in on the game, then it took it to another level
Yeah,
where
complete
she
game
was
changer.
able to find them much easier. Which I'm curious why that would be. Like, what about her? I mean, she's real tiny and she can fly around real fast, so maybe it's bigger to her. It's easier for her to see. But there must be something to it that she is able to differentiate objects easier than a human can. Why
It
she would
feels
be able to find it easier.
it feels like she's in touch with. It's almost like a Matrix type thing. Like she's part of that. She's like in
And
touch with the essence of things. I guess I don't know.
and like he has that conversation with his mom where she's like, everything has a spren. Like, so there's spren for everything. It's like,
Mm.
oh, so there's dung spren. And so like if everything does kind of have like its spren aspect to it, maybe she can sense it from that, and she can differentiate things based off of the different spren that are a part of these things, or whatever, however you want to, how whatever the concept would be, that there's a spren involved with the milkweed sap. Like there's a spren for anger, there's a spren for all these kind of things. Like maybe there is some kind of spren aspect to just objects like that, or plants, that in it she's able to kind of pick them up pretty quickly from that.
I love the when that pops up. Like that just pops up randomly. I'm jumping way the fuck ahead, but when Shallan, what I was just talking about, when Shallan tells Dalinar, like, "Yeah, I'm not going to take orders from you," he gets like, or maybe it's not that. It's when she talks about Jasnah's discovery. His nips are blown, and there's a spren for that. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I don't remember the word they use. It's like impressive or whatever it is. And
Yeah,
every
two
now and
nipples
then,
flying up over his head.
every now and then, when somebody's either like super duper impressed or whatever, or like in love or something, there's the spren and they're rare. So when they talk about it, it's like to see that spren is so rare. It's a cool idea, like because I mean, how often do you have, you know, these super like illuminating experiences in life, and then they make a big impression, and they stick with you. But to have that like memorialized with something visually is
Hmm.
pretty interesting. To have it's like it's like that light bulb, boom, goes off above your head. It's like literally a little cartoonish to a
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah, those. I mean, it's weird. Just the whole aspect with sprints are weird. Like even like the pain sprint, the rot sprint, the anger sprint, like all the sprint that just pop up from
Mm.
emotions. Like it's all kind of a weird aspect. And then also you get like the from this where like Tef didn't understand how the large horn eater could consistently find so many more than he did, but Kaladin didn't feel inclined to explain. He didn't understand why Rock could see Syl in the first place. The horn eater said it was something he'd been born with. That I'm not positive why Rock can see Sil and she doesn't want him to be able to see her. Like, because if she doesn't want Teft to see her, he can't see her. She could make herself be seen to Teft, but if she doesn't want to be seen by Teft, he can't see her. So it's her choice with him. But with Rock, he can see her no matter what she does.
Well, it's also interesting because she says that she likes him, right? There's something about Rock that she really likes.
She talks about she likes him because he worships her.
Well, but then she also doesn't like that.
Yeah, I know, but that's quirkiness. Yeah,
no, and I like that sort of back and forth where it's like, well, that you get there's a contradiction here, but that's people like that, but it's kind of like there's a time where it's when you find well, I don't know. I'm just thinking like that girl that really, really likes you, you're not that into her. The one that doesn't want you around, like that's kind of the one, the one you have to work for. That's the one you're more into. But I mean, outside of that though, I wonder if there's something to that of why he can see her. I don't know, man. Like I thought you would. I mean, the fact that you're saying you're not 100% sure is interesting.
I have pretty good guesses. Most of them are explained further into the books where where my guesses would come from. But I have pretty good guesses. Like I think I could narrow it down to like maybe 2 or 3 possibilities, but I can't think of. I wouldn't be able to explain it without kind of giving some things away. I mean, eventually you'll come across these kind of things. Like, but there's things where. Like with, you have to learn about what like perpendicularities are and, investiture and all these kind of things, that there's these different concepts that haven't came up in the world that you have to learn about them. And before I could talk about them I could say the word, you're not going to know what the fuck it means. So it's not really going to spoil anything, but I can't explain what it is without spoiling things for you.
Well, no, an investiture is a unit of investing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, you figured it out. That's pretty good.
I do. I was going to say what you were saying. The Sprins are kind of weird. That's one of the things that I really liked early on in the books. And there's a lot of things. The first Zeth chapter, I'm like, dude, this is fucking amazing. And Kaladin's amazing, right? But the fact that there is the Spren, and it confused me at first because you're like, okay, there's Sil, but then there's the Spren. How do I, what's the differential? But I like it. It's a really, like, if you're going to go fantasy, which, initially I wasn't very drawn to fantasy when things get like this, but the funny thing is it's what I kind of really like because it's a revealing sort of situation. It reveals emotions and it reveals these other things in an actual visual form, not just body language, which is really quite interesting to have that visual cue that's literally shown in their world. It's a cool thing to add in that just doesn't exist in our world. That's again, it's a little bit strange to picture, to visualize, and it'll be interesting to see how they decide to do this. I would imagine this is a big part of the reason why some people are like, this has to be animated, which I think this is a great opportunity for CGI.
I think you get a lot of the reason you get like the book's got to be animated is they prefer animation. So they like animation. This book, the audience, a large portion of it is leaning under 25. And they grew up with animation. Anime is much bigger with crowds basically under 30. There's a massive difference between people like anime for people under 30 versus over 30. It's like it missed our generation. It wasn't as big. It was still very niche, and it has blown up. So there's a lot of these younger kids have grown up with anime. They watch all of it, so they love it, and that's why they would like to see a series like this. Problem with that, and the reason I don't think there's any chance that we'll get the main series. I think there will be anime shows and spinoffs because that audience is large enough for something like that. But when you're talking about your tentpole series, the amount of money that like a Netflix or Amazon will pay for a show like that, they might pay $10 million total versus $10 million an episode. And so you're gonna get, and maybe even less than that. They might not even pay 10 million total, but you're gonna get much less money spent on it, much less money for the author. There's no way Sanderson is going to turn down like 100+ million to take like 5 million. It's just not happening. And he's going to have an opportunity to get, higher quality actors to play these roles, where if like it's anime, because it isn't, he's not established, like it's not Lord of the Rings where it's established that Lord of the Rings is going to be successful. Every time it drops something, it's a fucking banger as for the box office. So like they'll toss money at that. They're not going to just toss money at Brandon Sanderson without a, for an animation, if they don't know for certain that it's going to bring them in a bunch of money. And even if they're very confident that it's going to bring in a bunch of money, they're not going to, for animation, they just don't pay the same.
I think what you said there about the age difference is probably extraordinarily telling to why, for me, my initial, like, I grew up on animation, but it was Looney Tunes, and that was my parents' animation, but that's what I dug.
And
that's
not
what
anime.
I liked.
We didn't grow up with anime.
No, I know.
We had cartoons and stuff.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I picture when someone says animation. I don't picture anime because I never had Aeon Flux. Remember that? The kind of weird show. That was like one of the first things that I think was even borderline. Probably not even anime. I'm probably way out of my space here and try to even talk about it. But that was like one of the first things. I don't know if Final Fantasy is like a thing that, again, that wasn't me. That was people I think just younger than me. So
Final Fantasy leans into anime, like as far as like the more modern games versus obviously the first games were more like Zelda, but it became more anime as it went along. But yeah, I mean, it's different. It's
for me,
different animal.
It's very unrealistic. You know what I'm saying? Like to a degree where I can't even be immersed in the entertainment of that world. Like I haven't been able to, at least personally. So for me, it would be a huge, huge disappointment.
I see. Like you haven't watched any of it. So like there's good and there's bad. There's good and there's bad. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it wouldn't be a disappointment. You could make a really good story. I understand why people would want it and why I think it would be good. I would watch it.
I'm not predicting that the show would be a disappointment. I'm telling you, if someone told me or if I found out that's the route they went,
I know,
I would be very disappointed.
I understand, but you're underestimating like the quality of some of the anime shows. Some of them are really good. It's just not something we grew up with, so it's not something that's immediately going to come to our mind. Whereas like the younger generation they grew up with it, they watch it constantly, and so that it's much more at their forefront. Where a lot of them would much prefer it to be anime, and and whatever tastes are subjective. I personally, I would prefer it to be live action because I want actual actors and I want to see them and see, like I get more out of that than I do with watching a cartoon. Even like Arcane on Netflix was really fucking good as an anime, but I still get it brings more out of me when I'm seeing actual actors than when I'm watching animation.
For me, especially like these worlds, I want to see them in a real world sense. And the director, the opportunities for directors is huge. And the whole reason why I think we even went this route is it's a really, really interesting thing to consider, opportunity to consider in how you portray the Spren, because that's a particular line with how you balance that. That's a huge visual element of what the show would end up being like, how it would be represented as a genre, or what type of audience you're shooting for. So that would be a huge focus if I was tasked with directing this show.
Yeah, and when when they come out with it, it will surely be live action. I mean, Sanderson's even talked about this, and he's basically said what I've said along the lines of like, man, they don't pay enough for anime. It's like he's pretty much said that that's not happening. It's going to be live action, but once you get like a live action main series, I can easily see them doing similar to what they did with The Witcher, where they have like an anime movie spinoff off, one of the other characters, that a side character from that story. They have an animated movie of that character, and so I could see things like that, like Edge Dancer, where you got a side story with another character that's in the book that you haven't came across. That it's an entire story, a little short story novella, basically. And you could easily make that into an anime movie, things along those lines, or completely new material. The world is massive, so there is
I'm thinking
plenty of opportunity to have an entire anime movie just on Gaz and his life. I think would be extremely popular. He's easily top 3 favorite characters of all time.
Well, and I'm thinking also maybe like a romantic sitcom, like all these sitcoms that you have of husband, wife, the chick that cooks up the fish head stew, and the Laker boy that just has his feet in water all the time.
Yeah.
That's a show right there.
Yeah.
Who's laid around on water. She's trying to get him to convince her to marry him, and he's reluctant.
Well,
think all the hijinks.
They make a Stormlight Archive sitcom based off of that couple.
Yeah, just think of all the hijinks you could have, She keeps trying to get him to come in, and he just wants to lay on the water. The back and forth.
They could have like a Perfect Strangers, make him like the Balky or Takamoose or whatever his name was.
Absolutely, and bring back Laugh Track. Just really ham it up. Really ham it up. Yeah. And just have Hoyd floating in and out. He's on every like 8th episode.
If I was Sanderson, I would like pay like all the money like I brought in for those books. Like I would be like, I'll take $1 million and I will produce like a super high quality bullshit sitcom, like a 15-minute clip of a sitcom, and put that out, and it just be corny as fuck though, but like big time actors, and be like, play it up where like I've been, working on this for a long time. It's going to be the first Stormlight show that's going to come out. It's going to be, I think you guys are going to really like it. I won't say anything to spoil it. But yeah, then it's like those two doing like some fucking Perfect Strangers bullshit where everybody's like, what the fuck is this?
You're like, dude, you wrote these books. We know the way you approach things. What did you do here?
Like, I want to try something different.
I love sitcoms.
No, I think you guys just give it a chance. You'll really get into it. Completely play it up for a while, like just leave it simmering with people. And then the great thing is with the internet is when you come out and you're like, I'm just fucking with you, we're not doing that. There'd be people like the pressure got to them, they were gonna do that.
I would say do that, and then within like a week and a half drop the trailer for the real show.
Yeah,
and have it be like what people want it to be, basically. I mean, who knows what it's going to be, but that would be tremendous. You have this sitcom where it's like a week and a half where everybody's like, dude, what in the fuck? The Twitter sphere is going nuts for like a week and a half, and then drop the real show and be like, this guy, man, he's the best. I would love something like that.
What would be amazing is like if you would get the absurd fans who like nobody can do anything wrong type of fan. Like, they love someone so much that there's just nothing they could do wrong. That would be like trying to convince everybody that it's good.
Over the top, yeah.
Like, no, it looks good. I think it'll be funny. Like,
you don't understand his art. You don't understand what he's doing. It was always like this.
It was
always going to
be
like
humor.
This.
Like, a real fan would appreciate this.
That's really funny. What you just described is a particular niche of fan that is nauseating ridiculous. Like, you can't even get the joke. Like, even like the artist at that point's like, dude, lighten up.
Get off my nuts.
Yeah, Jesus.
Like, this is,
That's
you were
hilarious.
supposed to think this was terrible. Not fucking be complimenting me for it. Ah, man, that would be a great troll.
By the way,
it'd completely punk a lot of people.
is that what George Lucas did with the what the fuck?
The Star Wars movies, like they did with like the Ewoks and stuff
the
like
Ewok
that?
world.
Yeah.
That's the one. The Chewbacca
Oh my
world.
God.
No, the Ewok world. That's what it was.
That is one of the worst pieces of garbage in the history of television.
You know what's really funny is like I came across that online. I'm like, wait, how did I never hear about this?
Yeah.
And then I put it on. I'm like, oh, okay. I immediately knew why I hadn't heard about it. Like,
they spent like no money on it. They were just
clearly.
like, it looked like just some guys just decided to make a Star Wars movie, and they just like picked up a camera and started recording, and like there is no professional acting. Like the acting was terrible, the writing was terrible, the props were terrible. Everything, every single aspect about it was horrifically bad. And it was like, who okayed this? And then and that was the great thing, like growing up, like where George Lucas was so protective of that franchise. And you're like, yeah, but dude, look what you approved.
Yeah. Well, and I remember it has a real Saturday morning feel as well, where it's like,
it was supposed to be for little kids, but it was like, man, at least put some effort into it. This looks like a complete cash grab for like where you're just banking on the fact that kids have terrible taste in things.
Yeah, I have a feeling even little kids didn't like it. Like it was horrendous. Like,
no. And that's why it never became like even a cult classic. Like at least like if little kids liked it, it could have became like a cult classic. But it was like it's one of the worst things ever made. Highly recommend looking it up. Like, I mean, it's like a Star Wars Christmas or something like that. It's just with these Ewoks, this little kid, and oh man, it's so bad.
It's in like the Ewok world or something. Yeah, it was. I remember I couldn't even get through it. I'm like, well, I can't even make this happen. I like watch it for laughs, and it was like, yeah, this isn't even going to work for that.
No, it's brutal. It is brutal. But yeah, and then so back on the chapter, we get, a pair of bridgemen approach, youthful Dunny and earless Jax towing a wooden sled bearing a large stone. Sweat trickled down the sides of their faces. As they reached the wagon, Kaladin dusted off his hands and helped them lift the boulder. Earless Jax scowled at him, muttering under his breath. So you got all these guys are pissed at Kaladin for getting them on this duty where they got to go and pick up rocks all day.
Do you think Earless Jax has very good hearing?
Yeah. But he's just, I think his earlobes are missing. I don't think he's missing the ears, because Kaladin he's able to talk to him. So he's got the holes. He's got the ear holes. He just doesn't have the lobes, which is a good look.
What if it's like, when George Costanza is called chinless? Like he has a chin, but the guy's just screwing with him. Maybe they just call him Earless Jax because they're little small ears. He's got little baby ears.
The fact that he's a slave in the middle of a war, I'm betting that Earless Jax came from him is a little more on the nose than that.
He got Mike Tyson. Somebody bit his ears off.
But it keeps with Sanderson's consistent approach of making all the side characters ugly as sin.
Yeah, even when he described the boulders, he was like the head of an aged man with tufts of green and brown hair growing out from behind his ears.
Yeah,
I was like, even like the metaphor or the comparison of a rock to an old man. It's like, well, that's an ugly looking dude.
It's like Sanderson's just constantly looking in the mirror and like, God damn, I'm ugly. I'm just such an ugly. No, but everybody's ugly. I just think everybody's ugly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he's like in charge. And I'm sure he would hire a casting director, but if he was in charge of casting, it'd be really interesting. The casting puts together.
Like, we don't have this many ugly people in Los Angeles. They don't exist. There's not that many ugly actors.
Oh, they just go all British.
It's like, yeah.
I just slandered everything. No, but I mean, like, it'd be really funny to picture, just what what he delivers. Like, you had all the headshots and everybody's like looking at like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like, what kind of show are we making here? But that's his, that's his thing.
That's his MO. He really has high standards for looks.
Well, for Adolin. And I think Amaran he describes as somewhat attractive, but everybody else looks like a box or big piece
box
of shit.
head, bulbous ass face, old earless. It's like that picture of that little kid we saw today, little kid playing chess, and in the news article, it's like this 8-year-old kid playing chess from like in the 1940s or 20s or something. And he's playing chess against a bunch of other grandmasters, and he whooped all of them. And in the description of it, it said he had a what was it? A well established head.
A well-proportioned head, I think.
Here it is. It says, young Samuel, whose head was reported to be well-shaped, but not abnormal. Such a weird description, like of an 8-year-old kid. Like, why is that even in there? Why are you talking about his head to begin with? And I like the idea of like, someone was like, here's about some 8-year-old chess player. It's like, I bet that fucking kid's got big egg-shaped head. And then they're like, surprisingly, I mean, it's kind of big. It's well proportioned, but it's not that abnormal.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there. I love that it was reported. The article, of course, we checked because you need to know what his head is shaped like. Like
it's maybe Sanderson's a time traveler. Sanderson's a time traveler. He wrote this article.
It's such a weird thing to like point out because you're not thinking about it, and then the article points it out.
Never
like,
even occurred to me. About it. I see the picture of the kid, and I didn't even consider the shape of his head. And then they got me. They bring it up, and I'm like looking at the kid's head, like, is he weird looking?
I'm like, well, the back is a little bit, but I think that's normal. I think it looks totally normal. Yeah, it's really funny when somebody says it, then you're like
out his head,
over analyzing. I think this is a good way to like to open up conversations with people though. Like when you just come up like, you know what? Your nose isn't abnormally large. It's kind of well proportioned. All of a sudden they're going to be like, well, that's not a compliment, right? My nose doesn't look good, but it doesn't look bad. Okay. I mean, I guess I'll take what you just said, but now I'm going to have a psychosis about my nose for at least a week until I forget about this conversation.
Yeah.
Or complex about my nose. Yeah.
I like how Kaladin, he's going up to him and is like, hey, that's a nice one. That's a good rock you picked up. Good work there, buddy. And it was like, dude, you are trying way too hard. Like, that would not win me over at all. It would be like, you're fucking annoying. You got me picking up rocks, and then you're like playing the like, hey, good work, guys. Really good effort. Bring it in. Everybody get in a circle. Bring it in. On 3, team. 1, 2, 3. Fuck off.
Especially when they're rocks.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
You're doing manual, hard ass manual labor. It would be like you don't even have to do an analogy. You're picking up rocks.
Well, actually,
out in the middle of this area where it's hot as shit, you're sweltering heat, and this isn't even supposed to be the job you're doing. You're supposed to have an easy day. And now you got a hard-ass day. And then the guy that's responsible for you giving you a hard-ass day is playing Mr. Cheerleader.
You know, the one time, though, that I am picking up rocks, and I do want someone to give me some acknowledgement, is when you're picking up the rocks to skip. To skip over the water. Like, look at this one. Look at this. And then, not getting any love for it.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't care. My kids don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So, once they get older, they'll get some appreciation. But...
that at least like you're having a nice leisurely day. Like if your kids were like
shit.
You were having your kids like pick up like bricks and carry them to you all day, and then you're pointing out like how cool that brick is. Like, ooh, look, this is a really nice brick. They'd be like, eat shit. Like, how long do I got to do this? But
get more like that. And we'll be done soon.
It's understandable from Kaladin's perspective. He's just trying to win these guys. He's just trying really hard.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know exactly what to do. I understand why he's doing it, but I understand why it would be annoying too. But he can't just come out and tell them, I'm doing this to collect these things to help, because they're mad at him. They might go and tell on him. He has not won these people over, so it's not like he doesn't have their loyalty yet, so he can't even tell them why he did what he's doing. He's just like, you got to trust me. And they're like, yeah, well, I don't.
Yeah, you're just giving us more work to do, and then you're playing cheerleader on top of it. It's not fun.
But yeah, and so he gets, after they walk off, he gets the knobweed stems and ties them in a bundle and puts them under the wagon. And I like that he's like, the wagon had a large open space to the side of the axle, and a wood dowel there provided an excellent place for mounting the bundles. Jezerez send that nobody thinks to check the bottom as we roll back into camp. But I always like that aspect, how they pray to the heralds, considering we've seen the heralds, and they're very human-like. I mean, there's obviously there's the immortal aspect of them, so they're different. But they seem like humans that, you know, were made immortal. They don't seem, I mean, you hear them talking about going to be tortured and shit, and they're cracking under the weight of it. They seem to be very much humans. They don't seem to be deities, but they are worshipped as deities because of the history and how much time has passed.
It also seems like things like this, it doesn't, like, every culture has someone they, like, some larger idea that they, like, I guess, basically pray to. Oh, like, it just takes it off of you, you know what I mean? Or it's like something that you can throw it at, to where it's like, oh, let's hope, let's, you know, and that's basically what he's doing here. And there, it comes up quite a bit. That was like, when you mentioned it, I couldn't remember what it exactly was. It obviously is like, either in our world, it would be either a saint or, you know, God or something, you know?
Yeah, it's similar to a saint. I mean, obviously they also have their gods, but the like the main god, but they treat these people as like deity figures too. So it's like saints, but more. And so, I mean, it's grown now. Obviously, I don't think people 5,000 years ago were quite seeing them as like deity figures. They probably saw them as their saviors and that kind of shit. And you know, I although I don't know, because when you're seeing, like, especially some of these societies had got to a pretty prehistoric type of level where they weren't even able to produce steel. So maybe when they see some dudes that can, like, fly and have magic powers, like, they might have been like, yeah, these are gods.
Yeah, well, like the one we got with Dalinar going back, that whole thing, and like saving,
and that wasn't
asses,
heralds,
I mean.
and that was the he was seeing the Knights Radiance, people like Kaladin and Shallan. The heralds would have been different.
One would think they would even treat them. I mean, if you're in that type of almost like a prehistoric state, and then you have massive smoke dogs that are attacking and trying to kill you, and then these things come down from the heavens and save your life, that seems worthy of worship.
Yeah. Well, and then we get, you know, the apothecary said 1 drop came per stem. How many reeds would Kaladin need? He felt he knew the answer to that question without even giving it much thought. He'd need every drop he could get, which that apothecary is a damn liar.
Yeah.
Because they get more than 1 drop out of every one of the stems.
Yeah, don't they get 2?
He got at least 2 from every stem. But yeah, I mean, double. I mean, he cut him down in half. Completely bullshit. And just to send him off, that he specifically did not want this to happen. He was trying to not get Kaladin to do exactly what Kaladin ends up doing. He did not deter him, but he definitely is full of shit. But they got a pretty sweetheart deal without Kaladin's help, so understandable. And then I like the, you know, what do we do if someone notices this thing we are doing? Rock asked casually. Explain that I'm a weaver, Kaladin said, and that I thought I'd weave myself a hat to keep off the sun. Rock snorted. I might just do that, Kaladin said. He wiped his brow. It would be nice in this heat, but best nobody sees. The mere fact that we want reeds probably be enough to make them deny them to us. It's 100%, and Rock says this thing is true, but it's 100% true. They would, you know, that's the kind of thing, you know, when you're in this group, you would have complete you'd be paranoid about
Mhm.
the slaves because of how brutal their job is. You'd always be worried about revolts. That's why I'm surprised they even let them walk around freely and go to
Yeah.
bars and go to sleep, that they're not tied down at night.
Yeah, you
It's obviously it's a fine line, because like if you make their lives too bleak, then they will give up and they just
mhm.
won't do anything. Death would be preferable. You got to have, it's a fine line between getting having them continue to fight for their lives, even though they're put into terrible positions when they got to run these bridges at arrows, but they have to have something about life that they enjoy and that they fight for and continue to push for.
Yeah, that definitely is a delicate balance. But you're right. I mean, the idea of allowing them to sort of like walk around, not completely unwatched, because there are the sort of like the people that watch the Chols and shit like that. But yeah, you would think revolt would be the thing that would be a consistent threat.
Yeah, I mean, you would think it would be happening a lot, and so it's surprising that it doesn't. But it works out though for Kaladin, that they're able to kind of move around. They wouldn't be able to do this if they were under lock and key on everything. But you would think, like, you see them collecting stuff and starting, going out into this area specifically asking for hard duty to collect these things. Yeah, then you're going to be like, I don't know what you're trying to
Yeah,
do
it's
with
looking
that stuff, but
suspicious. Yeah.
yeah. And if you knew that it was for that there was medical benefits to those things, then you would know pretty quickly what they're doing and you would put a stop to it. Okay, you would just take over their business. Basically, you're like,
Yeah.
if you thought it was a good idea, you'd just be like, well, we'll just do that and we'll make all the money. Or you start having the slaves collect the stuff and just take their shit and then sell it, in their place. That becomes a new job for the slaves.
Yeah. They discovered a way to make themselves more useful.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good job. You're going to
So,
get promoted to nothing. You're going to be in
yeah.
the same
Yeah.
position. Now you have a new job.
Yeah, there's you definitely, you'd have to keep this secret and keep it hidden. But yeah, and then you get Syl pointed and Rock bowed his head in reverence before following her after her. And I like when she comes back, you get that part of the conversation where she's like, I like that guy. I like him very much. He's like, who, Rock? Yes. He's respectful, unlike others. Fine, Kaladin said, lifting another stone into the wagon. You can follow him around instead of bothering me. Tried not to show worry as he said it. He had grown accustomed to her company. She sniffed. Can't follow him. He's too respectful. Just said you like that. I do. Also, I detest it. I love that line, especially on the audiobook when she says it. Like she says it with disgust.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah, I like that she says it with unaffected frankness, as if
Yeah.
oblivious to the contradiction or of the contradiction.
But, it makes sense. Like said, anybody who's, you want someone to want you, but once they do want you, it kind of lowers them in your estimation. Yeah, there's
But
just by nature,
I
you want what you
like
can't have.
yes, but and I also like her example, because you also want someone who will push against you, doesn't just follow blindly, because
Yeah.
it's you can't respect someone like that. And her example is great. I led him to a patch of chol dung as a prank. He didn't even yell at me. He just looked at it as if trying to figure out some hidden meaning. That's not normal.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, Kaladin responds with what would be logical as well, just the idea that the Horn Eaters must worship Spren, because that's what that sounds like. Because if it's like, oh, what she does must be this, which I get it, man. It's very logical all around to have these expectations, or to have that reaction.
Yeah, and they do. They worship him, and they kind of, I mean, he clearly worships Syl and has even, in that situation where she's bringing him to cow shit or whatever, chol shit, he's looking at it and trying to figure it out, and it's like she's just messing with him, and he's not taking that aspect. He's not even looking at the situation from an outside perspective of just like, okay, she's just messing with me and she's just like to have fun, and she's clearly just screwing around. He's just like, this person's a god. Well, there must be some deeper meaning to it. So he's got such reverence for her that to a ridiculous level.
Yeah, and again, that would be a logical reaction.
Well, it's not a logical reaction, but it's
Well, it
understandable.
is if that's his perspective.
Yeah. It's understandable. It's not logical. Like, I mean, he's not using logic to do that kind of stuff. But it's understandable why he does it if that's his upbringing and that's what he was brought up to believe and piece it together. But he should be able to work it out that, hey, she's clearly just fucking with me, playing pranks, and she just brought me to look at shit.
Maybe she's showing him, where he can make a new recipe,
Yeah, that's what he's sitting there. He's like, what can I make with this? Nice bouillabaisse.
Yeah.
Buscumber bouillabaisse.
Ugh, Jesus.
But yeah, and he goes, I guess it makes sense to revere the Spren. You are kind of odd and magical. She's like, I'm not odd. I'm beautiful and articulate. She planted her hands on her hips, but he could see in her expression that she wasn't really mad. She seemed to be changing by the hour, growing more and more what? Not exactly human-like, more individual, smarter. But I like that. I like the way they build out Syl in this book. Like, just slowly but surely, she becomes more and more of an individual person. Mm-hmm. And her personality comes out more and more as the chapters go by. Because, like, it's a vast difference between when you meet her in chapter 2 versus her now.
Well, it's interesting as well because she's recognizing it initially.
Yeah.
Right. And now Kaladin's seeing these changes as well. So it's really quite cool that she's commenting on it, which is what we talked about before, where it's like, well, that she was not obvious necessarily, but it's implying that she was alive before, that she's this spirit or whatever that is almost being, what is it? Shit. What's the word there where people believe they die and come back as an animal?
Reincarnated?
Yeah. It's almost like that, right? Like she's like, was alive in some other state, doesn't really remember some things, right? It's
yeah. Like it definitely seems to be that things are coming back to her and it's her memories coming back versus that she's just learning things and becoming more like that. It seems like she's becoming more of herself again. Mm-hmm. Not so much becoming something different.
Yeah.
But and then you get another guy coming up where it's like, "Oh, Nadam," Kaladin said, reaching down to take the stone. "How goes the work?" Nadam shrugged. "Didn't you say you were a farmer?" Nadam rested beside the wagon, ignoring Kaladin. Kaladin set down the rock, moving into place. "I'm sorry to make us work like this, but we need the goodwill of Gaz and the other bridge crews." Nadam didn't respond. "It will keep us alive," Kaladin said. "Trust me." Nadam just shrugged yet again, then wandered away. Nadam's sitting there like, I love that aspect of Kaladin coming up to him. "How goes the work?" Like, the work that I'm doing all because of you, this hard ass work that I wouldn't have to do if it wasn't for you. How goes that work? Kaladin's coming up like, "Hey, happy Monday."
Yeah, for real. Yeah, but definitely that energy going on. And hey, you want a little small talk? Weren't you, what's your background? What are you interested in? What would you be doing? I was like, so what's your hobbies? What do you do over the weekend? Not this shit, bro. Not this. Yeah. What we're doing right now. This is not what I do.
Like, dude, if you're trying to get me to not be mad at you, you're going at it the wrong way. It's not going to happen with banter or, on just pleasantries. But yeah, and then when he walks away, I like when Kaladin's like, man, if I could blame this on Gaz, it'd be a lot easier. And she's sitting there like, I would have an issue with that, lying. Mm-hmm. And he's asking why, and she's like, I don't know, I just would. And then he brings up, it's like, what about, your pranks? That's lying. She's like, that's not the same thing. It's a joke. Which 100%. It's like, you can't tell the difference between blaming this on Gaz to her playing a prank. Like, these are not, they're the degrees of difference is massive. That's like calling stand-up comedy a lie. It's not a lie. It's a joke.
Yeah, but well, it's interesting from his perspective, he's like, well, no, I mean, you're doing two things that aren't, completely aimed at truth.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, but there's a nuance here. Why are you acting like you don't see it?
Yeah, these are two completely different concepts between lying versus making a joke. So you might be able to see how. It's like, well, it's very convenient to fit your worldview, but or to fit your argument at least. But yeah, and then so he trails off, and it's like the short, wiry bridgeman had said his name was Scar, though Kaladin couldn't see any obvious scars on his face. You know what? I'm curious why he's called Scar, because I don't know that it's ever brought up, and I can't find anything. Like, I don't think about it when I'm reading the books, so I don't know if they've talked about it, but I can't even find anything when I looked it up. When he said that, I was like, yeah, why is he called Scar? And then I looked up, and I couldn't even find anything on it. I'm curious if one of our listeners knows why he's called Scar. Let me know, because I couldn't find anything on it. No, I'm curious if there's a reason, or if that's just his name.
Well, it's spelled with a K, so
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with a scar.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but why? It's Scar? Like, how's that a name?
He had angular features.
His family grew up watching The Lion King.
So he has...
And really, really related to Scar.
Yeah. He has very angular features. So he has a head like a rhombus. And, And maybe he sounds like... Who's the guy that did the voice for Scar? He sounds like Jeffrey Irons.
Jeffrey Irons did the voice?
The guy from the third Die Hard. Isn't that Jeffrey Irons?
I don't know.
Plays Hans Gruber's brother.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, the guy that did the voice for Scar, I think that's the guy that plays in like the
Jeremy Irons.
He plays Hans Gruber or not? Is that
Gruber's
the same
brother.
guy? The guy, the guy that is in the Harry Potter movies, like the head of Slytherin. He's been in a bunch of shit.
That's Alan Rickman.
Yeah, isn't he the guy that does Scar?
No, it's Jeremy Irons.
Huh.
Yeah.
They both probably look similar. Maybe that's why
they both
sound similar.
Yeah, the voices are kind of close. Yeah, kind of close. Actually, does Alan Rickman play? Who is what's his face? Who the fuck were we just talking?
I'm pretty sure Alan Rickman is in one of the Die Hard movies.
Maybe I think he's Hans Gruber, bro.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I thought. But
it is. He is Hans Gruber. Yeah. Okay. All right. There's the connection, bro. There it is. All right. It's my favorite hangover movie of all time. Die Hard. Fucking love it.
Yeah, we lived right by that joint for a long time.
Oh yeah, Nakatomi Tower.
Nakatomi Towers.
Nakamaki. The karaoke tower?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. The way the sun hit it was crazy. They didn't actually use that in the movie, but yeah, it's a great movie, man.
But yeah, and then Kaladin, so Scar does not like him either. He has a problem with him, and the man went so far as to give Kaladin a rude gesture before tromping back out, which I assume he gave him like the fish gills or the elbow clap from the Friends, thinking that's the most logical, the most logical gesture you would give someone.
I assumed he mooned him.
Yeah, or he did like one of those things, like lifts a leg like he's farting and just starts blowing the wind at him.
Okay.
I have Buscumber on you.
Hell of a gesture.
Have some Buscumber, you piece of shit. But yeah, and Kaladin's like, I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, you made them have to pick up rocks all day.
Yeah, I mean, he really needs to accept the fact like he knew ahead of time what was going to happen, but he's still trying to... Yeah. Still really trying, and it's not helping.
This isn't going to be the time where you're going to win them over.
Yeah, they're going to have to see the results
in this environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're going to have to do this at another time when you got them, you did something good for them, not when you just pissed them off.
What he should have done is got a bunch of T-shirts made that say we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're all. he should have like took like had some string and just like been weaving this into like some rags that rags that they wear, the shit clothes that they got, and just like he gets some sticky stuff and puts it on and like puts W's all on their shirt. We're all winners, guys.
Good job. Hey, good job with that rock. That's a good one. That's a good one. You got a good one there. What'd you say you used to do? You're like, okay, yeah. And they're all just flicking him off. Shut the fuck up. He's like, good job, guys. He's just like really going over the top, cheering them on.
But yeah, and like he's like, I thought the seeing me rescue those 3 men might give them hope, but they're still indifferent. It's like, well, the problem is that, they, even if you save them and they see you save them, their expectation is that they'll just die later and it will be painful and it's going to be a terrible death. And that's their destiny. They don't have hope that there's something worth living for yet. I mean, they're clinging onto their lives. They're not enjoying their lives. They're not relishing their life. They're not looking forward to anything. They're just surviving. And so you got guys, you got to get them out of that survival mode.
It's pretty cool, man, the way that Sanderson's doing it here, because in Kaladin's mind, it's like, hey, man, we're going in this direction. It's like, yeah, well, we're not fucking there yet, bro. Like,
yeah,
he in his mind, it's like, well, I'm saving these guys, and then I could save you. It's like, well, you didn't save him. The guy's back there with festering wounds. He's gonna fucking die. He's not explaining the knobweed sap, right? He can't explain it. That's the part of it that he's just not able to accept, because he wants them to know why he's doing what he's doing, but yet he can't explain it to them. And he's having trouble, obviously, coming to grips with the immediate results.
And he does seem to like work it out. And I like the way Sanderson wrote that, in the way like Kaladin just like kind of talking things out, starts to kind of work it out for himself, because Sill's like, they're selfish. And he's like, no, I don't think that word can apply to them. He lifted a stone, struggling to explain how he felt. When I was a slave, well, I'm still a slave, but during the worst parts, when my masters were trying to beat out of me the ability to resist, I was like these men. I didn't care enough to be selfish. I was like an animal. I just did what I did without thinking. Sill frowned. Little wonder Cal himself didn't understand what he was saying. Yet, as he spoke, he began to work out what he meant. I've shown them that we can survive, but that doesn't mean anything. If those lives aren't worth living, then they aren't going to care. It's like I'm offering them piles of spheres, but not giving them anything to spend their wealth on, which is exactly right. That's exactly what it is. It's like, it's not enough to survive. If you're just surviving and you don't have anything to look forward to, and you're not enjoying your life, then you're not going to give a shit.
It's a great way to lay the groundwork for what he's going to end up, because then she's like, well, what can you do? And I don't know, but I think we're going to need a lot more reads. Well, he ends up finding out. He's like, oh, that's what we need, right? When he talks with Rock and Teft, and there's, laughter and actual camaraderie. It's like, oh, shit, that's what we need. We need to bro out, man.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Need some grabbing ass, man.
Grabbing ass.
Yeah, we gotta fucking grab ass, dude. That's what we need to do.
That's one of my favorite things to hear. And you so rarely hear it. But when somebody's like out there playing grab ass, last time I heard somebody say that, it cracked me up.
It's like, who the fuck plays grab ass? Like, when is this ever happening? There's never been a time in my life where I was running around grabbing ass with my friends.
Yeah, me neither. But
I've heard people describe what I was doing as grab ass a number of times growing up.
It's such a funny way to be like, oh, you just don't give a shit what we're doing and you don't approve of it. And apparently that means we were playing grab ass. Yeah. Like all wrestling around. Is that what we're doing? And in actuality, we're all leaning against a fence post.
Yeah.
Maybe that's probably a good description of West Side Story. It's one big game of grab ass.
Grab ass. I don't even remember like the premise of that movie. I always just like assume it's basically Romeo and Juliet, except for terrible singing throughout.
It's Romeo, Juliet, singing, and Puerto Ricans. That's basically it.
Puerto Ricans and white people?
Yeah, basically. Like,
Yeah, that's what I figured is just like a race race difference.
The really funny themes
versus like a family difference, like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, the really funny themes of movies back then is like, oh, there's this new race coming in that's not our mixed race that we've been for the last, 50 years.
Yeah.
Because 50 years earlier, all those dudes were all fighting over their own races.
Yeah.
And now they're all mixed. So it's all like, who's these new motherfuckers coming?
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But dude, I mean, I have a record of just the music without voices. And it's tremendous. Like Leonard Bernstein is fucking great. The songs are great. But trying to watch it, because it's a classic, but trying to watch it, man, it's just so. I played it for my wife, and she just made fun of it the entire time. Where she's like, "What is this? How are these gangs snapping at each other?"
I remember you guys telling me you were going to go see that at the theater, and I was like, "Yeah, there's no way you're going to enjoy this." I was like, "Do you remember what this movie is?" And I was pulling up the preview. I was like, "This is what you guys are going to go see," and the snap in. And that kind of stuff. I was like, that is not your personalities. And you guys made it halfway through.
Yeah, she had never seen it before. I thought I remembered it as being pretty great, but I guess I wasn't remembering it.
If I was a kid, I don't like musicals, but maybe if I was a kid, a little kid, you showed me that as a little kid, I might have liked it. I might have been able to tolerate it, but man, once something turns into a musical, it's off for me.
It's way too much. I can't do musicals. All those movies back then, it's way too much. And I watched Singing in the Rain, and it's a good movie. It's way too many dance numbers and singing and shit. It's a different time. It's totally different. You're talking about anime. Musicals way before our time. So most of them, I'm like, enough. Fuck. I remember I fast forwarded through the last scene of Singing in the Rain. I was like, wait, so that's the movie? It's just I couldn't take it anymore.
I can't immerse myself in those movies because as soon as they start singing, all I'm thinking is this is just an actor singing, because it's so out of place that someone would just start randomly singing and then people would be dancing with them. That is never happening. Never happening. I can much more easily relate to someone shooting fireballs out their eyes, because it's okay, that guy's got magical power. But when random people just start singing, it's no, that would never happen. That doesn't happen.
They're acting out the emotion.
That's what ridiculous.
What's the movie? The classic Les Miserables is a very interesting one, because they're singing and dancing, they're singing. Man, it's fucking intense. I mean, these are intense suffering, moments. It's dark shit. To have that as a musical is kind of interesting. That's one I can actually watch and actually enjoy. It's really funny though when Russell Crowe starts singing. You're like, whoa, what? Is this really gonna work? I remember laughing at him, and then it's oh, you get used to it, and then it works.
Now, what I would like to see done is with the Stormlight Archive, when you make that into a TV show, Kaladin, whenever he's having his down in the blues moment, he sings they show him standing there in the rain, singing, these real sad songs, singing, crying, tears pouring down his face, singing to the rain. I think that would be super emotional.
Really emo it up, black eyeliner running down his face. Really just take it to another level, man.
Tears just pouring down his face, and singing that Robin Williams song. Or is that his name, Robin Williams? The British singer, and when he's singing and through it all, I offer you protection, a lot of love and affection. God, what is that song called? Whether I'm right, Angels, something about angels. It is such a cheesy song, but the video is him singing in the rain, is such a perfect description of what I'm talking about with Kaladin. I want to see that, where it's really just so cliche of the sad guy singing in the rain.
Jesus. That's so campy. Ugh.
That would be funny though. Like if it and like no one else did it. There was no singing the rest of it's not a musical at all. And it's taking itself very seriously in every other aspect. But Kaladin goes off and sings in the rain to himself about once an episode.
So going back to what you were talking about before, we did only make it through half. Karen didn't like it at all. She thought it was hilarious. Kept was making fun of it the entire time. And like the chick that played Maria was there. And like at the beginning, whoever the lady was that checked us in, she was like, "Oh, you've never seen it?" To Karen, she's like, "Oh, you're gonna love this. It's gonna be so great." And that was not at all.
No.
What went down? So we left and got some drinks. It was okay, but yeah, it didn't hold up.
Yeah.
Didn't hold up to the expectations.
Well, and we also get, that Sadeas, he didn't enforce a curfew, but Kaladin had learned that a lone bridgeman had best remain in the lumberyard at night. So obviously, you get that human nature aspect of it. It was when you're treating people in this way, in this brutal way, and just complete awfulness, kind of the way your mind is able to sleep at night and to process it, unless you're like a psychopath or something who just doesn't have normal emotions. Like the way the human mind copes with that is to other the person, and they're not human. They're pieces of garbage. There's something wrong with them. They're evil. They deserve what they're getting. Like, and so like that's why you get like they don't want to walk alone at night, because the soldiers will pick on them, not even pick on them, will commit acts of violence towards them probably, and beat the shit out of them and treat them like shit, spit on them, kick them, hit them, punch them. Like, I mean, but that's what you would expect in that kind of situation, because would you look what you're doing to these people? If you had sympathy for them, you couldn't do your job. How would you do that to people if you were sympathetic to their plight?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's brutal, but makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, you would think the human thing to do would be to quit. Like you would just be like, I'm not doing this. I'm not gonna stand by why these people are. But it's easier said than done, because it's not just like quitting a job. You're probably gonna get thrown in with them.
There's that, and there's also everybody else is doing it.
Yeah,
and that's the number one thing that's the number one factor that I've come across why people do what they do. Everybody else is doing it. They just fall in.
Yeah, there's a lot of order fallers, but if you had a crisis of conscience, even, I mean, it's tough. Like, what would you do? Like, you're probably gonna have some rough sleep, because you're gonna know what you're doing is wrong, what is being done to these people, and it'd be hard to be like, well, I'm not personally doing it, but you're not doing anything to stop it. You're not helping these people. You're just walking by. Probably, if you're one of these people with a conscience, when you see like the other soldiers kicking at these guys, spitting on them, treating them like shit, brutalizing them, you're not stopping it. So like, I'd be real curious, like what it would be like to be in the shoes of someone who's doesn't, respects what these guys are as human beings, respects them as human beings, but is in that precarious position of like, I can't really speak out because they'll throw me in with them, and I don't want to be brutalized.
Yeah, I mean it's a very convincing. I mean that system in itself, yeah, it's going to convince everybody to just basically fall in line.
Yeah,
I mean it's a huge threat, and obviously you see how they're brutalized. You don't want to be one of them.
Yeah,
you're lucky enough to be in the position you're in, so basically keep quiet. Wish it was different,
and that's how like those systems survives, because there's always going to be a percentage of the people who are going to know that what they're doing is wrong, even if they won't voice it, even if they they try to bury it down, they still know what they're doing is wrong. But are you going to speak up and try to stop it? Obviously no one really is. I mean, nobody is. But look how brutal they're being to them. I mean, it's not just like, we'll throw you in the clink, we'll strip you, we'll make you go clean the latrines. It's, we will torture you, make you carry a bridge, and guys shoot arrows at you, and you'll be dead in a couple days, maybe a week. You'll last not very long. Not going to last very long, but that week you're alive, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's one hell of a deterrent.
Yeah, go back to like Kaladin's first bridge run, like reading that. It's like, what the fuck, dude? This sucks.
You would think if you had that one special or a group of special people that are like, no, we're finally going to stand up, that would be the revolt.
Yeah.
Right? They would just
if it was
rally
like a Dalinar leading it.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what he does and when he frees them. But he takes a stand for them, and he pays a heavy cost for it. He gives up his shard blade. But yeah, it would take someone like him, or, someone of in a position of power that you couldn't throw into bondage, that you couldn't just make a slave because he won't shut the fuck up. Like, so Sadeas seems to have pretty much discretion to do whatever he wants with his men, but it would take someone else's man, someone at the top of the food chain speaking out, and none of them. This just seems to be the way of life there. They just kind of accept that slavery is a part of it.
Yeah, it seems so. I mean, it's the system that's built in, and they're all just living it.
But yeah, it's a brutal system, and it really it brings it to the forefront when you hear things like that, where it's like, man, as bad as their life is, then you get kind of used to it. And then he brings up the fact, yeah, you don't want to be walking alone at night. And it's like, man, even when you're not even fucking running the bridge, you can't even just walk around people without them treating you like shit, like you're a piece of crap, worthless human being. It's like, what a fucking brutal existence this would be.
Yeah, there's not a lot of benefits, obviously.
No.
Make it the best you can. I mean, Kaladin obviously does that, or at least tries to do that. But I mean, and he's the first, from what it seems.
Yeah, and then and then you get with Kaladin and Teft and Rock. He's like, Kaladin and his two companions stepped aside for a large group of soldiers. Their coats were unbuttoned, and they were only mildly drunk. So you get that differentiation right there between Dalinar's crew versus Sadeas' crew, where these guys are laid back, unbuttoned shirts, they're getting drunk, where Dalinar's like, no, you don't get drunk. Don't get drunk. You don't walk around with unbuttoned shirts. You look like a soldier at all times, and you're prepared to go fight at all times.
Yeah, it sounds like less fun.
Does not allow these people to let loose.
Sounds like less fun for them.
Probably, though, with Dalinar's group, Kaladin would feel much more comfortable walking around these guys.
I would imagine so, yeah. I mean, they were more professional, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. It seems like Dalinar would rein in his men and put a stop to brutalizing the slaves. But Sadeas does not give a shit about that. And Sadeas kind of rules with an iron fist. And it's not even like he's doing it to be cruel. He's doing it to stop people from questioning him. He's just like, I want you to do what you're told to do. There's things I want to get done. Don't get in my way. And I will be as brutal as necessary to make sure that everybody does what I want them to do. No matter how heinous or terrible that my request is, I want it obeyed now. So he rolls with a heavy iron fist, but he lets his guys cut loose more than Dalinar does.
Yeah, I wonder, to some degree, I wonder if that's a conscious choice or if he just kind of just doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's probably he just doesn't give a shit. Like he's also they're living that he's more living that Alethi life. Like, I'm a freaking warlord, and I care about power, not what my guys do in their free time, and that they're being respectful and being upstanding citizens. It's like, I don't give a shit about that. All I care about, do they do what I tell them to do? Okay, fine.
I have a feeling Sadeas gives two shits about their names, where they're from, what they do.
Now, if they were causing him trouble, if they were causing him problem, and it was coming back on him, then I think he would put a stop to that. But as long as it doesn't affect him and what he's trying to get done, I don't think he would care. And he clearly doesn't, as far as this stuff goes. But like, if they start killing the slaves and shit like that, he's probably putting a stop to that, because then you're fucking with his money. Because he views them as a commodity. He's not looking at these like these are human beings. These are a commodity to be used for his purposes. If you were taking his ability to use these people, that might be a problem for him.
Yeah, it seems like his speed on the planes and those bridges, that's his bread and butter.
Yeah. So that pretty much seems to be the limit of his restraint, though, is on don't do things that fucks with his shit. Otherwise, it seems like he lets these guys do what they want. But yeah, and then you get, a soldier eyed the bridgeman, but the three of them together, one of them being a brawny horn eater, were enough to dissuade the soldier from doing more than laughing and shoving Kaladin as he passed. Yeah, you got Rock, who's 7 foot tall, Kaladin, who's probably like 6'8", and jacked fucking young dude, and then Tef, like this grizzled war veteran type of dude. Yeah, it's probably not the trio you would be like, hey, look at those slaves. Oh, shit, look how fucking big those slaves are. Just like bump into them, like, you see how he's, hold me back, bro, hold me back. Seriously, hold me back.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, this is not the group that you would think you'd want to mess with, even though they are slaves. So it's like, you can basically do whatever you want. But yeah, there's got to be some limits.
Yeah, I mean, they're holding on to their lives with a slim tether to the most part. So, like, if you can't kick their ass, like, I mean, are they just going to stand there and do they value their lives that much that they're just going to let you beat them down when they could easily stop you?
I wouldn't think so.
Probably not. So, yeah, you got to pick your battles at least to an extent. But then you get, I don't like this, Steph said, glancing over his shoulder at the group of soldiers. I'm going to go back to camp. You will be staying, Rock growled. Tef rolled his eyes. You think I'm scared of a lumbering troll like you? I'll go if I want to. And Tef, Kaladin said softly, we need you. And I like that part where he's like, need, that word had strange effects on men. Some ran when you used it. Others grew nervous. Tef seemed to long for it. He nodded, muttering to himself, but stayed with them as they went on, which is very much the case with most men. Mm-hmm. Most men, even if they don't believe they need it, you need some kind of burden. You have to have something that you're responsible for. If you don't have any kind of responsibility, you will see most men will go down a very, very bad path. A very destructive path.
Yeah, there's that. There's also now he's part of a team, right? Somebody else is dependent on him. I mean, it gives you purpose, and and that also ties in with what you were just saying. And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's absolutely essential for, I would say, most human beings, period.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially, and someone in this case, I mean, if there's nothing to live for, at least to have some purpose that someone else depends on you. Now you're at least part of a team. You have some functionality. You can make some difference. That in itself is a reason to live. I mean, and that's what's keeping Kaladin going. That's what got him off his ass, or out of the doldrums to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, you see it, especially a lot with men on the change when they have kids and they have a family that relies on them versus when they're 20 with no responsibilities and they can do whatever the fuck they want. They're making vastly different choices with their lives. And it's not all just like, I grew up and now I'm bored with that. It's part of it. A large part of it is like, I can't fuck up. I have responsibilities. I have people that are relying on me, and that people relying on you will keep your nose clean to an extent, and it'll reduce that urge you have to just be go on a destructive war path that just seems to be part of, most men's nature. You just have that animalistic desire sometimes to just let loose and cut loose and be wild. And that having something that kind of restrains that, keeps it in check, is a good thing. You still want to freaking be, have some of that, that animalistic side to you. You don't want to just like completely deaden that where you're not even, you don't have that just natural instinct anymore, but you want it restrained.
Yes, it gets vastly restrained once you have responsibilities, which, I would agree is very much to a great degree. Good thing. It's a funny balance. All these things are there's a funny balance that goes on. And it's funny how it's one of the great examples of, the good old days where, not really the fucking good old days.
No.
Like when you're getting hammered all day, all night, don't know how you got home, probably broke some shit, nearly got in trouble for whatever, and then woke up with like, blood somewhere on your body. It's like, what the fuck did we do? Like, and that's the good old days. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? That's what you pine for and miss so much. And yes, it's freedom and all, yeah, to be able to do that. But how were you bettering yourself, your life, or the world itself?
The nice things is like the feeling of limitless possibilities, the kind of that spirit of like, I'm going to go out and conquer the world, and like those kind of aspects. You don't want to like kill those kind of things, but you want something that restrains it too, where you do take chances and you try to, but you're also you're restrained so that you're taking chances in a way that is going to like benefit your family versus like, I'm going to do something crazy and maybe I'm going to go to jail. Like,
well, and then also
you want to kind of like change that direction of those that side of you that would make those kind of decisions and try to gear that into something that would be productive.
Yeah, that's a good point. But there is also, to that first point, is the idea of like limitless possibilities. Well, if you've accomplished certain things, then you want to maintain those certain things, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you build a family. It's like, all right, done that. Let me move on to the next thing. They're still
peace
there.
Out, guys. Hey, it was a good run.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're welcome.
Hey, remember, don't jump on my trampoline.
I got you guys started off good, right? You guys.
I will know if you jumped on that. I'm out of here, but that's mine. I'll come back and get that later. But yeah, so I could completely understand that aspect of it, and I think it's something I think it's good to have in the books, like these kind of things, because like especially when you have a younger audience, it's something where you can you could pick up on these kind of things. These are things that I think are good. I think that's why it's good to be around, have young men that are around older men, is to kind of guide, because you do, as an older man, you still know what it was like to be 20, but you also know the risks and like the dangerous, stupid shit you will do. And so like, it's good to have these kind of things in books where it's like gives you that kind of perspective as a 20-year-old without having to, live it and learn it. You can kind of learn from someone else's mistakes and those kind of things, and to like see that that taking on responsibilities, that it has some positive benefits to it. I think that it's good having those things in books to kind of relate to it.
Yeah, it's great, and the way that Rothfuss does this, and
Sanderson.
Oh yeah, the way that Sanderson does this, and throughout the books, it's they're little short little pieces. I mean, Kaladin's life as a whole so far is inspirational in itself, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of themes that can be pulled out of that, that you can then sort of utilize metaphorically and sort of apply to one's own life. But yeah, little things like this, it's a perspective setting sort of thing, which again is very true to our existence, but then also gives a good example.
Yeah, and I think this the way Sanderson writes his book, I think these are the kind of things. That's obviously just like a simple little line. I think they're what Kaladin does and goes through, and like what I think there's reasons why it reaches certain audiences, and there's a lot of young men that gravitate towards this book, and I think it's things like this. This is just like one of the bricks on the wall that draws them in. It's because he does relate it to what like a young man's experience is, and what it would be like as you're growing older, and that that need to have that responsibility, that desire for it, that just like if it's not there, you feel lost, like Teft. And when you give it to him, it like breathes life into him. And so I think those kind of things, men can relate to. And then you have also the struggling, the mental side of it. You pull in a lot of those people because they can relate to those struggles of depression, or something as severe as like what Shalon's going through, which is much more severe than beyond just depression. she's got a lot of shit going on. But, and there's a lot of people dealing with it. And Dalinar with his repressed memories. Shallan with her repressed memories. I mean, you have a lot of different aspects where a lot of different people can relate to a lot of different things in this book. So it's understandable why it reaches so many people.
Yeah, it's these are some of the better parts of just literature in itself, right? I mean, and it is what we're talking about is a testament to his ability to weave these things into these books. And they for me, like that little section, it's short and succinct, but it really does stand out in quite a great way. Yeah, let's do more of those things.
Yeah. And I like to I love this part where they're looking for the stems in the little like barn basically, and they're going through the different wagons looking for the stems, and then Rock comes walking up on Teft, and like Teft's like gets scared. Kaladin goes looking around. It's like Teft's like, sorry. Teft whispered, "The walking mountain startled me. If I am being a mountain," Rock grumbled, "then why weren't you hearing me coming?" Eh? I love that. I love that line too. Just reading it today because of talking about I had been watching Barry last week, and so when he was like, "All my men suck balls," and then his man's like, he's like, "If I suck balls, then you're king of Suckball Mountain." Like it's immediately what came to mind when I read that. If I am being a mountain, you are king of mountain. Is what I immediately thought of.
It's pretty funny that the back and forth throughout the rest of this, it's a lot of like they're becoming closer.
Yeah, 100%.
They're not.
He does a good job of growing it.
Well, but they're not close enough to like call each other out explicitly as I feel like they want to. They're kind of pulling punches a little bit and being a little bit more.
Their personalities are starting to come out. They're starting to talk shit and stuff. Yeah, he does a good job of like slow. It's a slow burn. Like he does this over a few different chapters just to get the first two guys on board. He does this over a few chapters. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it really starts to grow from here on out the rest of the way. And then like, so he goes and he gets the reads and, and he's like, "Man, I hope they'll still be good. They'll be fine. You worry like a worrier." I love that. You worry like a worrier. Oh, okay. Found you some bottles. And so he goes and gets the bottles. But I like that, they need a place to work where they wouldn't be interrupted. Even if the Nabui seemed worthless, Gaz would find a way to ruin the work if he saw what was happening. Gaz is just, man, he just really comes off as super dope in this book.
Yeah,
he really he does a really good job of making Gaz like a very heroic figure in this story.
Yeah, really no wonder he'll get. Yeah, that's the biggest part of the reason why he'll get his own spinoff. Because he's just so endearing. Yeah, just a really lovable, likable character.
But yeah, and then so they go walking and keep their head down so that no one stops them and bothers them. And he's like, before long, they approached the place where Kaladin had nearly killed himself. What a difference a few days could make. And you forget that. And you need these reminders because you forget that when you go through these chapters.
Yeah.
Like, it's only been a couple of days since this dude was ready to jump. I mean, that was chapter 11. He was ready to jump off the cliff. And now we're at, double that through the book, chapter 23. And it's like, you need these little reminders that it's only been a couple of days.
It's also, and again, it's great. It's towards what we were just talking about, just how much his perspective changed. He's a completely different person. Now he's a leader. People are dependent on him. He's getting things done. Now he's going to save some people that he's already tried to save. Now he can treat them. Like, it's all these things that he's putting on himself. And that's the classic Kaladin, is put all these things on himself and then feel like a giant failure when things don't go 100%
the most positive aspect of it is he's at least got to the point where he's like, if I fail to save the bridgeman, the wretch will take control again. This time he'll get his way. That gave Kaladin a shiver. So like, he establishes an impossible goal and he's like, and if I fail, it's all over. I give up.
I feel like, dude, if he played basketball, he'd be like, all right, big game today. It's game 6 of this playoff, and it's elimination.
If he was Michael Jordan, he would be like, if I don't score 75 points tonight. I will never play again. I will walk away.
I feel like he'd be going in, I'm not missing a shot tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not going to miss a single shot. Now, I know that doesn't happen, but if that happens, I'll walk off the court. I'll just
30.
leave.
I want to go 30 for 30, all 2-pointers, and 15 for 15 from the free throw line. I just want 75 points, clean, straight, across the board. If I don't get that, I'm done.
You know, it would be just absolutely phenomenal, but also like heartbreaking to watch somebody that's that insane. Is he breaks like the record for the most consecutive shots made without a miss.
He goes 29 for 29.
Yeah. And then walks
for
off
15
the court.
from the free throw line. And then he misses a layup at the end of the game. And meaningless
I like
layup. And then takes the ball and punts it into the stands and walks off the court and never plays again.
I like the idea that he does it in like the third quarter. He punts the ball, rips his jersey off, and just runs out of there. And he's
crying.
He's like
tears
weeping,
pouring down his face.
Yeah, he's
like,
weeping.
Man,
I'm a failure.
This
I'm terrible.
Granted, superstar, but holy shit, does this guy got some fucking issues?
After the game in interviews, he's like, I'm terrible. I'm never playing this game again. I'm the worst that's ever been. Yeah. Like he's just shitting all over himself.
I fail at everything. This always happens to me. It's like, dude, what you did was amazing.
He'd be the new, now in today's world, he'd be the new spokesman for, mental illness or like, dealing with depression.
Yeah.
So that'd create a niche for himself, but which would be probably helpful for a lot of people. But, that's the type of guy Kaladin is. That's what he's kind of doing here.
Granted, missing a jump shot versus like having people you care for die right in front of you. They're not exactly 1-to-1, but it's almost the same kind of thing. I mean, the analogy works. Don't question it too much.
Depends on the stakes,
Yeah.
How late in the game is it?
Yeah, how important is that jump shot?
Oh, talk about perspective. Holy shit.
But yeah, and so he goes and they start working on this, and he kind of explains it to them what they're doing, and they're like, "What is it?" Rock leaned closer, squinting. Knobweed sap, or rather, knobweed milk. I don't think it's really a sap. Anyways, it's a powerful antiseptic. What? Tef asked. It scares away rot spren, Kaladin said. They cause infection. The milk is one of the best antiseptics there is. Spread it on the wound that's already infected, and it will still work. That was good because Leighton's wounds had begun to turn an angry red, rot spren crawling all over. So Tough grunted, then glanced at the bundles. There are a lot of reeds here. I know, Kaladin said, handing over the other 2 bottles. That's why I'm glad I don't have to milk them all on my own. But yeah, and then
you guys just got promoted.
Hey, we had some fun picking up rocks all day, and now we're gonna squeeze some of these reeds for a few hours.
That'd be pretty funny if he kept with that same theme of like, hey, you guys are doing great. Hey, great news. You guys both just got promoted.
Yeah.
New positions. You're now milkers of knobweed. Great job. High five.
So we don't have to collect them anymore? No. You do those too. You still do those.
No, you're adding. You've
been promoted. You get more work. You get not different work, more work. The same plus extra. And no extra pay.
I like, there was one part that reminded me of a tremendous George Costanza moment where he instructs them to try to look like you're doing something monotonous, like bow your head so they're not creating a tension as they walk through with, I guess they're walking through with the knobweed, right? They're walking through with bundles. And George Costanza has a moment where he says, as long as you look annoyed, everybody thinks you're busy.
Yeah.
Because he has nothing to do at work, so he just looks annoyed. And everybody's like really impressed with how much work he's doing. He just walks around looking annoyed all day.
That's what you do when you grab one of those little stems. You just like scrunch your face and look like you're just squeezing it real hard. And just like taking all day with just the one stem.
Yeah, and then when Kaladin, being the great boss that he is, you know what? Rock, take a break.
Looks like you worked really hard on that one right there.
You earned it.
Look like you need a rest.
Then Tef gets to sit there all pissed off.
But yeah, and
fucking
I like
horn
their
eater.
little conversation where he's like, "Why do you care about them?" He's like, "They're my men." It's not what being bridge leader means. It means whatever we decide, Kaladin said, noting that Syl had come over to listen. You, me, the others. You think they'll do that, Tef asked? The Light Eyes and the captains. You think they'll pay enough attention to even notice? Tef hesitated, then grunted, milking another reed. Perhaps they will, Rock said. There was a surprising level of delicacy to the large man's motion as he milked the seeds. Kaladin hadn't thought those thick fingers would be so careful, so precise. Light Eyes, they're often noticing those things that you wish they would not. Tef grunted again, agreed. Yeah, that fucking Buscumber, man. Did not expect Sadeas to have such a refined palate.
Who thought he would notice?
No.
Yeah.
A little Buscumber garnish.
I mean, the idea the idea that you guys eat so much spice you can't even taste anything. I could put anything in here. Maybe not.
But I like too that like his little conversation with Tef, like, you know, why do you do this? It's like because he still doesn't quite understand Kaladin. Like they had given up hope, and then Kaladin's coming in there and breathing life into him, and he's giving him a purpose now, and he's needing him, but he's like, why? What is your deal? He just hasn't accepted that this dude is really that dude. He is that self-sacrificing guy that really just wants to help all these people. He sees people in desperate need of help, and he's trying to give it to them. And they are in a position where they're treated like dogs, like you just talked about. They can't even walk down the street by themselves. So you got all these people, they're treated by dogs, like dogs by everybody. And then Kaladin's coming in here and he's risking his life and he's taking massive risks and he's doing everything he can to help him. And it's still like, why do you do this? And he's really winning over these guys' loyalty big time in these scenes.
Yeah, it is interesting though, like the perspective that Taft has here, where it's like, why? Because we reading Kaladin, reading the books, knowing where he's at, it's like, oh, he finally figured out a way to not be fucking depressed and to not just wait to die. Basically, I mean, where he was, it was like, you know, it's just a horrendously shitty place to be. How do you come out of this? Not like he's got some end goal where I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to become, you know, the whatever, the protector of the king. Like that wasn't what he was thinking. He was thinking, how do I make tomorrow better than today? Basically, how do I ensure that I can make at least these guys better? And he just took on the responsibility. It kind of goes back to what you were saying before. He created responsibility for himself. He went to Gaz and said, "You're going to give me the fucking bridge crew, or I'm going to break your fucking neck, you know, or I'm going to kill you right here." Mm-hmm. I mean, he could have asked for other things, you know. He just basically said, like, leave me alone and let me, you know, have this responsibility. And, you know, obviously Tef's not going to see that because that seems like, well, dude, why don't you just take it easy? Right? Because it's already bad enough for them. So the only respite they get is to sit, you know, lay down for a while, you know, and not be ordered around. So now he's taking that away from himself. Why would you do something like this?
It'd be perplexing to be in a situation where, like, you have nothing, you seemingly have nothing to live for. Then why is this guy giving so much to protect you and to keep you alive when he's in the same boat as you? Like, it'd be different if it was like Dalinar or something, where you could understand where this person is not living this life, and you could see like he just feels bad for us, and he doesn't think what's happening is right, and he's in a position where he can do something. Like, he's looking at Kaladin, it's like, there's nothing you can do. Like, so why, like, that's kind of would be perplexing. It's like you're in a position where you don't think that there's any hope. You don't think there's any hope. So why is this guy trying so hard when all his efforts are going to be futile in the end anyways? Why does he keep trying? Why does he keep giving a shit? He's gonna die. We're all gonna die. There's nothing we can do about it. That's what your perspective would be. But why does he keep pushing forward?
Well,
it's just like, that's my job.
Isn't that your what's the word? People that believe in nothing.
Nihilism.
Yeah. So this is you. This is your nihilistic worldview, right? That's
Yeah.
what, I mean, that's basically what
I
that's
have the
taking on.
opposite of a nihilistic worldview.
Well, it's
but-
definitely understandable for someone at the bottom of a shitty situation and they're branded as slaves.
Yeah,
They
I
can't
completely
escape it.
understand why they would
Yeah,
see that
yeah,
way, and
to
I
be
would be
nihilistic at
perplexed
this
by
point, yeah.
Kaladin as well.
Yeah,
And it would be hard to accept that he's really that guy. It would be hard to accept that. I probably would be, similar to Tef, where I would accept it quicker than the rest of those guys, because I did see the guy. Once I see the guy literally risking his life to save other people, and then he didn't do it for anything. He didn't get anything out of it.
That's the key.
And then it would be like, okay, this guy's, I don't understand him. I don't understand what's driving him, but clearly this guy gives a shit and it's genuine.
I think that's extraordinarily important because they're living in a situation where it's nothing but shit all the time.
Yeah.
And nobody's helping each other and everybody's out for their own and they're being whipped and treated like shit. And, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about anybody. Nobody knows anybody's names or stories, right? It's just garbage all day, every day. So to see something like that, to see a selfless act in itself would be like a massive spark. It would be so influential. I mean, just to see it in your own life is one thing, but to see it in someone that's in their position, that's that's life changing, right? That's trajectory changing. And that's why it is effective, but it's not just going to break everybody, right? Unless they see exactly the type of situation. It's still going to be, oh, fuck this guy. What like you were saying before, what's your angle? What's your agenda?
Why and I think too, like when you see like, okay, he saved them, like, okay, but it's a waste of time. They're going to die anyways. Their wounds, they're going to die of their wounds. It's going to be a slower, painful death. But then, now he's getting that medicine. And not only does he get the medicine to help him, but then he sells it for supplies to keep them alive and to feed them, gets them food and all those kind of things. It's like, who is this fucking dude, man?
Once that starts happening, that's when everybody else is falling in the fold because now everyone's benefiting. And it's also like,
at least at that point, it's like, okay, this guy, like he's getting money and he's spending it on us. And like he's risking his life to save us. Like, I mean, like at that point, you're at least dropping your guard on okay, this guy's fucking legit. At least that. Like, you might still be a hopeless person. He still would have to overcome that hurdle of giving them hope and something to live for, which he does, obviously. I mean, there wouldn't be, a book if he didn't, but he does give that to him. But that first hurdle of getting them to at least accept that what he's doing is genuine, I like the way Sanderson did it, because it would be something that would take a while to pull people in this kind of a situation, in this bad of a situation. It would take some effort. I would, some of them you would see like Taft and Rock. I would think I would be in their kind of shoe, where I'd be more accepting once you start saving people's lives. Like and you got nothing for it. I'd be like, that's so selfless. Obviously the guy's legit. But if you didn't, and you still were just so hopeless where that didn't do it for you, once he starts saving their lives with medicine and spending money on you, then you're like, fuck, this dude really gives a shit. Clearly.
Yeah, man. Once you're seeing him save people's lives and feeding you, and have to feed you, right? So, like, once all that's happening and they're eating their own bescumbered soup, which clearly what Rock's doing to everybody.
That's the one thing about Kaladin that I think is a little bit of he did them dirty, is he did not give them a heads up that Rock likes to bescumber the soup, and so be careful when you eat from him. He should have gave him a heads up about that story.
Yeah, he probably should have. But you know what?
Or at least like tell him, like, don't get on the guy's bad side. Nobody piss this guy off. He will go to some great lengths to get you back.
I think what Kaladin's doing is he's keeping this in his back pocket for the moment when he needs to be like, you've been eating shit this whole time.
He's bescumbers in all of his soup, all of it, every time. He only knows how to make one kind of soup.
Like, yeah, but dude, you've been eating it too.
Yeah,
but I knew about it.
Yeah, I like it.
I was in on it. Yeah, I like it. We both like it. Fuck you.
But yeah, I like this aspect. This is one of the funnier parts in the book, One of the funniest parts in a book for me. I just love the idea. It was such a great revenge.
The way it gets explained out too, because I mean I listened to this chapter a number of times in preparation, and it leads in, you know, like on the read throughs it leads in. You know where it's going. It's just it comes in gradually. It's so great.
So great, yeah. Where he's like, how'd you come here, Rock? And Top's like, we don't talk about that. And Rock's like, don't worry, I'll speak of this thing. And he talks about how his people don't have shard blades, and so they come to fight to win shard blades and shard blade. And they're trying to win one, and the first person who wins one is going to be like the king. And there's like almost like a prophecy behind it. And it's like the person who ends up winning first one will end up being a great leader for them. And so
I like it. I like that whole story, the whole idea of it. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the whole idea of it, because it's like Kaladin's initial reaction is like, "Get the fuck out of here! What are you talking about?" Like he kind of laughs. He's like, did you think a little harder than he thought it was gonna be, wasn't it?" Like the idea of them fighting without shard plate or blade, right?
Yeah.
That idea is absurd to him. But I like their whole approach where it's just like, yeah, but we get one, changes things. It's like, yeah, you got one, but these other cultures, these other whatever cities have, 30 or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's a start.
Yeah.
I love
win one before you can win two.
Yeah, exactly.
But and I like the little nugget of information you get as they kind of run down. Like Thalina has 5 blades and 3 suits of plate, all held by the royal guards. The Sele have their share of both suits and blades. Other kingdoms such as Herdaz have a single blade and a set of plate. This is passed down through the royal line. But the Unkalaki, we have not a single shard. Many of our Nuatoma, this thing, it is the same as your light eyes, only their eyes are not light. But, they don't have any. And he says that the first one to obtain a shard blade would become king, a thing we have not had for many years. No peak would fight another peak where a man held one of the blessed blades. So it's not only like would it bring a king, it would also bring peace. And because at that point you're done, like whoever's got it is King Dingling. Like you're not gonna fuck with the guy.
Fight him.
Yeah.
That's an interesting aspect as well, because the idea of a king, if the king wins, the battle, right, and they have the army, well, that's a deterrent, right? But with shard plate and shard plate, it's not just that he has an army. You can't. There's nothing they can really do. That's quite clear. It seems. I like this, the way this gets explained too, the idea that no peak would fight another peak. Just that sentence alone, you can picture what his world's like.
Yeah, they're living up in the mountains.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of these peaks are their town, like that town versus this town or what have you.
And that's, cool. Explain why he calls them lowlanders and, the air's thinner up higher and, you guys got too much air. So, which I love that aspect of it, is like too much air makes you stupid.
Yeah, you guys are dumbasses. Yeah, you said that's what I was saying earlier, where it feels a little bit like pulling punches. Like, how can you be a light eyes without light eyes? By having dark eyes, dumbass. Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like they're pulling punches. Where there's a few times where it's like, dude, don't be stupid, and don't interrupt my story, which he does say, but do not interrupt story.
Yeah. Yeah, he's meaning leaders versus like not actual light eyes by their eye color. He's calling them. He's basically using light eyes to mean leaders. It's like, we do not pick our leaders this way. It's complicated, but do not interrupt my story. Shut the fuck up.
It's funny he says it's complicated, because the idea of picking your leaders by eyes is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a stupid way. It's not very complicated. It's just stupid.
Exactly. It's not complicated. It's ridiculous, but okay. That's our way.
Their system is a little more nuanced than that, because obviously light eyes does not automatically correlate with being a leader. Mm-hmm. But
there is somewhat more nuance, but yeah, it's just there's a clear separation between light and dark.
Yeah. And then, well, and now that you're at a part, I can talk about that where like you've seen that the shard blade did change Moash's eye color and made him light eyes. That is, you can see why this society would gravitate towards light eyes or better, is because if a dark-eyed person gets a shard blade, they become a light eyes person. So you would correlate that with that means light eyes are better. You can easily see where that comes from once you see that transition.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because one of the things I just listened to, Moash and Kaladin are going back and forth, and Moash is still playing that. Well, all light eyes are pieces of shit kind of conversation with Kaladin, and Kaladin's like, "You're a light eyes." Oh, don't say that.
Yeah, don't say that. Look at your eyes, dude. Go look in a mirror. Have you not looked in a mirror since you held that thing? They're fucking baby. You got some baby blues now, man.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Well, it's like, yeah, but I'm one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Well, I thought there were no good ones. That's what they keep saying back and forth. There are no good ones.
Except for me. I am the only good one in existence. Crazy how it worked out that way.
Yeah. I'm breaking the mold, man.
Works for me. Perfect for me. Worked out perfectly for me. All the rest suck, though. All the rest got to go.
Gotta go.
Yeah, and so then you get the new Atoma. They see our lack of shards as great shame. They want these weaponry very badly, and so you come to buy one. Kaladin asked. No, the shard bearer would sell his. No shard bearer would sell his weapon. Each was a distinctive relic taken from one of the lost radiants after their betrayal. Rock laughed. Ha, buy? No, we're not so foolish as this. But my new Atoma, he knew of your tradition, eh? It says that if a man kills a shard bearer, he may take the blade and plate as his own. And so my new Atoma and his house, we made a grand procession coming down to find and kill one of your shard bearers. And I like that Kaladin laughs at the idea. Yeah. He just immediately thinks like, that's ridiculous. Like, have you seen shard bearers fight? Like, they just annihilate shit. You're going to go one-on-one with this dude? Yeah. Good luck. Well, even though he did. Well, he took one out.
It sounds like, and they did, well, yeah. And they did, in the case of Rock's new Atoma, he fought Sadeas. Sadeas doesn't have shard plate, right?
Yeah. He has plate, not a blade.
Or plate without blade, yeah. So, I mean, they were somewhat strategic, but he was like, yeah, we're not idiots. We know it's extraordinarily difficult. We're being realistic about it. But smarter approach, at least go at a guy that has a plate and no blade, or a blade and no.
Yeah, because that blade is a son of a bitch. You don't want to mess with someone. You can't block it. There's no blocking it. Yeah. It'll go straight through your block. Whatever you try to block it with, it just cuts right through. There's no blocking it, so you just can't get hit at all. It would be very difficult because those swords are monster. They're big-ass swords, and they're easy to swing around. And then if they got shard plate on top of it, then they're going to be moving faster than you can move.
It's when you can't hit them, even if you get by the sword. It's basically an impossibility.
And then you see Sadeas, like, I mean, he's still annihilating dudes with his shard plate. Like, he can jump and move faster than you. Like, so he's got this big-ass hammer. You just got to you're just relying on getting lucky.
Yeah.
It's a huge risk. Like the shard plate and shard blade, they don't make just like a little bit of difference. They make a massive difference.
So to me, it seems like this is a tradition that gives their people hope, right? I mean, that's the biggest part of what they're doing here. Why they're doing it is something for the future, and we can build as long as we get one. But I mean,
it's that ambition, I think, too, like to become the king. You want to do it to like, it's like going out on a quest to come back as the great leader of your people after that. So if you had that, it would send ambitious people off to try that, to come back the hero of your people and become the king. And so that desire for that would keep sending them to do this impossible task, to go slay a dragon, which, we talk about how it's impossible, but I mean, that's what fantasy is there for, to show you that you can go and slay a dragon. And Kaladin does it. He beats a shard guy with shard plate and a shard blade, and he beats him with a fucking little stick, stabs him in the eye. A little stick with a little blade on the end. Just sticks it through his eye, through a little slit in the eye hole.
I do like Rock's whole approach though. Like he's very lighthearted about it, where it's like, yeah, many have died, but it's all right. Eventually we will win. Like, it's very like matter of fact. It's not like, because you could see someone in his world being like, yeah, it's real fucking stupid we do this shit, but that's what we do, and I don't like it. You know, he could have that approach, he could have that attitude, it would be understandable, but he doesn't. He sees the purpose in it, the hope, the whatever that's built in to their basic tradition, and even though he's basically sacrificed to a degree as a result of it.
Yeah, and so then as they ended up, he fights Sadeas and his guy. He loses, and then Sadeas kills him, and then Sadeas enslaves all the rest. That was the deal, is that if his leader gets killed against Sadeas, then everything that he brought becomes Sadeas's, including the people. So that's how Rock became a slave and got into Bridge 4, is because his dude lost to Sadeas, and then Sadeas enslaved him, and then they find out that Kalek was a cook, and
I mean Rock.
What's what? I'm sorry. Yeah, Rock was a cook, and so he gets made Sadeas's cook. I love that. You'd rather serve, and also before that though, like he's asking like, what kind of system is that? Tef complained. You have to be servant of your own relatives. Storm me, I'd rather die. I think I would. It's not so bad. You don't have to. You don't know my relatives. Tef said. This is a great line. It's like, you'd rather serve someone you don't know, like this Sadeas, a man who's no relation to you? He shook his head. Lowlanders, you have too much air here. Makes your mind sick. Too much air, Kaladin asked. Yes, Rock said. I love that. But
I like the back and forth, but I would be with Rock in terms of, wouldn't you rather, though, if you're gonna have to, wouldn't you rather be a family member or a friend, someone you're close to, rather than some fucking stranger who could be cool, or he could be a big piece of shit, like you have with Sadeas.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, Kaladin's like, but you're wrong about one thing. You said that we serve someone we don't know. Well, I know Bright Lord Sadeas. I know him well. And Rock raised an eyebrow, and he's like, vengeful, greedy, corrupt to the core. Rock smiled. Yes, I think you were right. This man is not among the finest of Light Eyes. There are no finest among them, Rock. They are all the same. And he's like, they've done much to you then. Kaladin shrugged the question, uncovering wounds that weren't yet healed. Anyway, your master was lucky. Lucky to be slain by a shard bearer. Lucky he didn't win, Kaladin said, and discovered how he'd been tricked. They wouldn't have let him walk away with Sadeas' plate, which I think Kaladin is 100% right. I don't think Sadeas, if he loses and if he's killed, I don't think everybody else is just going to stand by and let this dude pick up the plate and walk away.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's
so fucking valuable.
It's so valuable, and if they can get away with it, right? It's one thing if an entire army beats, and then then it's over. So they get it because there's nothing they can do. But if there's something they can still do about it, whether it's honorable or not, seems like, I think in many cases, in many circles, would give a shit, because
if you don't have the men to enforce the code of conduct, then that honor is a very thin shield.
Yeah,
especially when you're talking about with Sadeas's men. He's not dealing with Dalinar. Dalinar's men, he might be right. Dalinar might have trained his men to accept that, but Sadeas's men, they seem like they don't seem like the type that would just let that go and just let him take the plate and walk away, when they could just easily just kill him and take it for themselves.
Yeah. So I think you're right about that.
But and so then Kaladin's like, so you were a servant? Kaladin said to Rock, in a Bright Lord's retinue. What kind of servant? He struggled for the right word, remembering back to at times he'd interacted with Wistiao and Rashon. A footman, a butler? Rock laughed. I was a cook. And then he's like, your food here has so many spices that you cannot taste anything else. Might as well be eating stones powdered with pepper. You should talk about food, Tef said, scowling. A horn eater? And then you find out that the reason they're called horn eaters is because they eat the horns and the shells of the things they catch. and they got strong teeth apparently, according to Rock. They like that. They like that crunch, man. They're the type that they're making a sandwich. They're putting some chips inside the sandwich. They want crunch in every bite.
My wife loves doing that, but I like the like his reaction of like, because he puts it out there like they eat the horns and shells of the things they catch, the outsides, and the implication is like, what the hell? But he's like, oh, but the taste is so good. Like he's like, yeah, it's the shit. You guys just don't know what you're missing out on. It's amazing. And yeah, he's like, also we have very strong teeth, so we can break this shit up. It's amazing.
Then he was like, but there, you know my story. Bright Lord Sadeas, he wasn't certain what he should do with most of us. Some were made soldiers, others serve in his household. I fixed him one meal, and he sent me to the bridge cruise. Rock hesitated. I may have enhanced the soup. Enhanced? Kaladin asked, raising an eyebrow. Rock seemed to grow embarrassed. You see, I was quite angry about my new Atoma's death. And I thought, these lowlanders, their tongues are all scorched and burned by the food they eat. They have no taste. And what? Kaladin asked. Shell dung, Rock said. It apparently has stronger taste than I assumed. Wait, Tef said. You put chol dung in High Prince Sadeas' soup? Yes, Rock said. Actually, I put it in this in his bread too, and used it as a garnish on the pork steak, and made a chutney out of it for the buttered garums. Chol dung, it has many uses, I found. Tef laughed, his voice echoing. He fell on his side, so amused that Kaladin was afraid he'd rolled right off into the chasm. Hornator, Tef finally said, I owe you a drink. So fucking great, man. He's just like, he kept up in the ante. Like, put it in the soup. He's like, man, it's not enough. What if he doesn't eat the soup? Let me fucking put this some shit in some butter, too.
Throw
it in the pork. Yeah.
So he put it in, he had shit bread, shit soup, shit layered on pork steak, and a chutney for the buttered garum. So anything he's going to eat, there's going to be some shit involved.
Yeah. He's like, no matter what, if this guy eats food tonight, he's eating shit. Guaranteed.
It does speak to you might not want to just have anybody cook you food. If you just killed his relative and, the person he's been following, you might face some repercussions, That's why you should always be nice to your waitstaff. Yeah. At least before you eat.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And so, they through this little laugh, and Tef like laughing and have fun in this story, Kaladin, this when it clicks with him, he's like, this is what we need. Need this camaraderie, this living our lives, having a life, enjoying ourselves, pleasantry. This is what we need. We need to enjoy our lives and have a purpose. And
I think maybe Tef's instinct was correct. What he's really saying they need is bescumbered soup.
Yeah. They need to play pranks on each other. That's what Kaladin's saying. We need to get all of our guys to eat shit soup and laugh our asses off at them.
Well, because he does
We need to recreate this moment for us.
Because Rock says, chol dung, this is the thing you need? And Kaladin's like, no, I'll show you. So he's saying, it's just part of it. Yeah. First, we need this sap. We don't need these guys.
We don't even need the chol.
Here's what he's thinking.
We produce our own dung.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what he's thinking. He's thinking, we're going to save these guys with a knobweed sap. As soon as they're good, we're going to feed them shit. It's going to be so great. Yeah. and he's probably thinking, you know what? I have a source, and it's not chol dung. I know this guy, Doug. Man, he's got the hookup.
Doug has got some high quality dung.
Yeah, he's got the hookup on some real high quality shit, dude. Like the best.
He'll love it. He's got a real shit job.
Yeah.
He will love playing pranks on other people because usually he's the one getting pranks played on him.
Yeah, I mean, all you'd have to do is tell him, who's going to eat this, right? Give this to Elokar.
Yeah, we're going to give this to Elokar. I'm surprised Doug hasn't done that. So Doug has definitely sprinkled in a little bit into his soup. Like he's definitely he's cleaning out that sharp plate too often to not, and he's getting invited to the meals. He's like keeping some dust sprinkles in his pocket to sprinkle into his drink or something.
Yeah, so he's drying it out.
Yeah,
and he's just peppering it.
Yeah,
yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
so maybe he'll get dysentery and die.
Anything to not hear the fucking jokes anymore.
Elokar the whole time keeps shaking him around his shoulder. Say, hey, Doug, my best buddy, man. My best friend. Only one who gets me.
All Doug's thinking in his mind.
Fucking just take a sip. And that'd be the best, is like he's pouring the shit sprinkles into like Elokar's drink, and then Elokar like doesn't drink it from that point. Keeps picking up the cup but doesn't take the drink. Doug's just sitting there like, damn it. Keeps setting the drink back down, and then knocks it over, spills it on Doug.
He gets scumbered from his own concoction that he made. Oh man,
that's how it would go for old Doug. Just never working out for the poor guy. Yeah, and then they ask Kaladin what happened to him, and he kind of you get your first little brief introduction as he tells him, he killed a man, and they're like, so like, wouldn't they kill you for murder? He's like, I didn't murder someone. It's like, but I learned that they don't like when you don't accept their gifts.
Yeah, you get that piece there, which you already know. I mean, he's got all that animosity toward Light Eyes, so you're like, oh, okay. I remember, first read through, you're getting a piece here. It's like, all right, so we're gonna find out, what the hell happened, and he got fucked over. No wonder he's so pissed. He got completely fucked over, and not doing something wrong, doing something right.
Yeah, you from right there, because he hates Amarim. Amarim did this to him, so then he killed someone. You're obviously piece it together that he killed the shard bearer, but. And then didn't accept the gift, and you just heard the story about like they tried to win the shard blade, and Kaladin is like, it won't fucking agree to those deals. Then you put 2 and 2 together, like, okay, he killed the shard bearer, but then like you think in your mind, like you're still a little confused, like did he just not accept the shard blade, or like did he try to take the shard blade and Amaram tried to give him a gift and instead of the shard blade, and he didn't accept that, and you still don't know exactly what happened, but that's a big indication of what happened is when you get this part, given the other context of the stories they were telling.
It's definitely something that's starting to piece together. You're getting that clearer picture for sure.
But and again, Amaram deserved it, and Kaladin should have really got over this by now. It's been a long time, and it worked out great for him. So, and really in book 2, you really don't understand Kaladin's perspective anymore, because it's like everything worked out great for you.
You got all this great training.
Everything came up in aces, man.
Yeah, you got all this great training. It's like when, for me, it's when, what's her name? Evie cuts out on, V for Vendetta. It's like, no, dude, he did all this great training for you. You should be thankful.
Yeah.
What are you all upset about?
Thank him.
Yeah,
you don't feel fear anymore.
Yeah.
He's completely removed emotions from you.
Yeah. So you shaved your head. Big deal.
Yeah. Really liked your hair. But, I like Amaram coming up like, hey, you like Teft? You like Teft? You like Rock? Would you rather than be dead? Because that's what would have happened. They would have been in Sadeas' crew. You wouldn't have been there to save them. So, again, you're welcome. But, what do we got next week? We got a Dalinar. I know what we got. We got Dalinar is going to get confronted by Adolin coming up next week. And so, like, he's going to try to convince one of the guys to join up crews with him against the Parshindi, and then Adolin's going to confront him about him losing his mind, and that's really going to set Dalinar back on his heels when that happens.
But isn't it also like he's kind of questioning his tact as well? It's like there's a better way to approach this. Isn't that a big part of it? Or am I misremembering that?
Obviously, there was a better way. He chews him out in front of everybody, but they're at least loud enough where other people could hear. But I don't think that's not necessarily in the heat of the moment what anybody's thinking about. Like that, it's not they're sitting there thinking like the tack. Like Dalinar is just kind of rocked back on his heels because he's being confronted with this shit for the first time. And these are thoughts he's had, but no one's came out and said, like, dude, you're fucking losing your mind. You can't be, all this shit you're doing is nuts, dude. What are you talking about? And so, like, his son is coming up to him. And so it does rock him back on his heels where he's like, he doesn't necessarily believe it, but he realizes, like, there's that possibility. And if I'm wrong, I'm in a very extreme position of power where if I'm wrong, it's going to be catastrophic. So then he starts thinking about stepping down because of this conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, and something just occurred to me. It's a little late to bring it up, but speaking of Gaz and how great he is, he gets Shallan a copy of The Way of Kings, right? It happens in book 2.
Oh, yeah.
And she's super excited to see him. And he brings her the book, and he's all proud of himself.
Yeah, that was something we talked about in another episode. Like at least so far, all the names of the titles of the books are also books in the world. Every single one of them is.
Yeah. So the book that she gets from Gaz, is it not The Way of Kings? Is it Words of Radiance?
I don't remember what book she gets. I don't think it would be The Way of Kings, because why would she need that? Dalinar has that.
Oh.
So it might be Words of Radiance. And it could be. I can't remember what. I'd have to go back to that specific part. I don't remember. Like her book was important for helping her find Urithiru, is why she wanted the book she was looking for. So Words of Radiance would seem to be like that book seems more likely what she would have gotten, because the Radiance, that's where the Radiance were. So the Words of Radiance would fit in line more with Urithiru. It's definitely not Way of Kings, because that book's widely available. Dalinar's having that shit read on like a daily. Either
way, Gaz is the hero yet again.
Yeah, he really comes through numerous times. Really, and that's the big takeaway from like the Bridge 4 is like most of what you can credit Kaladin with, I think you really got to put on Gaz's shoulder. I don't think Kaladin becomes the leader he is without Gaz's leadership first.
So it's literally like when Dwight Schrute gives that speech and Michael Scott's.
Yeah. I enthralled the guy who enthralled an entire room full of people.
And that's all he needed to make himself feel better.
Yeah.
To walk away like a total scumbag.
Yeah.
But in his own mind, man, I'm good. I'm so good.
That's a great episode. Jim training Dwight to speak, and he's just like telling him to like do all the mannerisms of like Hitler and Mussolini.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, and he kills it. That's the thing.
He does. He gets everybody fired up.
Which, I mean, so did they, right? Pretty effective.
Yeah. But yeah, so we will. Oh, and we'll also get a Kaladin flashback chapter. Him, I think Roshan is gonna show up into the city. They're gonna get their new Right Lord.
Shit's about to go bad.
Yeah,
well, shit's always going bad. Well, the previous flashback chapter we had, he's not going to be a doctor anymore because his first patient died. Or at least the first one we saw.
Yeah.
But she fell off a fucking building, and he's like, I will resurrect the dead. I
am going to save her. Easy peasy.
It's like an EMT that shows up to suicide, people that just blew their head off. Like, I can do this. I can
fix this. I don't know, man.
They don't have a pulse.
Lot of blood.
I don't have a pulse, have a hole in their head, and there's brains all over the floor. I can do this. I can do this. I've been trained for this.
Don't doubt me. Don't doubt me, bro. But yeah, I think that'll do it for this week, and we will be back in 2 weeks. So peace out.
Yep.